I better get some votes for this.
I'm 27 years old. I've no money and no prospects. I'm already a burden to my parents. And I'm frightened.
I am insulted that number 3 wasn't the runaway option, guys. Come on. No, I'm just kidding. I'm actually just curious to see why you guys are, because when we do Wuthering Heights next, I'm curious if we're going to lose a lot of people. That's probably the case with every book that we're going to do. We're probably going to lose a few people for like a book or two. Because I'm sure there are some books that just don't interest people. Like Wuthering Heights, I think is maybe a bit controversial because it is it seems hot and cold. Some people love it, some people hate it. I don't know if anybody just is like okay with it. You'll be here for all the books. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm curious. To be honest, I don't know how much we'll gain from that. Sometimes YouTube is weird in like recommendations for who they do or not. I don't necessarily care because we're not going to talk about the movie that much. We're just going to talk about the book. It's funny that it's a depressing book. I'm pretty pumped to read it though. I think it's going to be an interesting book. I just keep hearing it is very different from Pride and Prejudice. And it's funny because in my small mind, I'm like, oh, they've got to be somewhat similar. I feel like they're kind of maybe the same era. Was Wuthering Heights the same era as Austen, before or after? You won't listen to me read Wuthering Heights, but you'll watch your reaction videos. Nice. Yeah, they're pretty much the same thing. So if you guys are doing both, you're just doubling up. After they are somewhat similar. Interesting. Okay. All 3 finished listening to your Obsession, Bluey. Oh no way. What'd you think? I gotta pick that up again. That was just a fun project. Bluey's like the greatest. That's so funny that you listen to that. Not a lot of people listen to that one. So you're one of the onlys. But I'm glad you listened. You have a lot of classics, including Wuthering Heights, but there's something special about Austen. Interesting. Well, I kind of hope that we do this book club and that we read another classic that you just kind of like fall in love with. That's what why is my phone not charging? That's what I'm kind of hoping. Like we read one that you guys haven't read and you're like, okay, I'll just try it with John. And then you end up loving it. That's how some of my favorite books came to me. They were like, I don't really want to read that, but fine, this person recommended it and I'll read it. And then I've fallen in love with it. But weirdly, I trust people's recommendations less and less now. Someone recommends a book, it's more so like a burden for me to read it. I'm like, oh gosh, I have to like take a pause in the books that I want to read and then read this one that someone wants me to read. So I don't really do that sometimes. But Wuthering Heights is a cautionary tale about toxic relationships. Interesting. You only read Wuthering Heights once years ago and I thought, what kind of a romance is this? Interesting. Got no clue about it. The movie looks interesting. So we'll see. We'll see when we get there. May I get a narration inside narration? Huh? Narration inside narration. The movies look like a train wreck. Isn't like Charlie XCX is doing the soundtrack? I don't know if it's going to be a good adaptation, but I think it's going to be a good movie. Yeah, it's crazy that it's releasing on Valentine's Day too, because you guys all say it's not really. Is it a romantic movie? Maybe this is a different question. I don't know. I've never read Lolita, but I know the concept of it. Is it like a Lolita where like you love these characters but you hate them because they're so messed up, or is it just like they're messed up? Do I root for any of the characters? It's not a romance. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. It's not a romance. That is very interesting. Wow. Most people are here for Austen now. That changed. And there's 5% of you who are here for another reason. I'm curious what that other reason is. Because what other reason is there? No rooting for any character. Oh, no. This is going to be brutal to get through, isn't it? Nefarious purposes. Uh-huh. His mutual trauma narrative. Oof. Man, yikes. Well, I'm still kind of excited to read, but thank you for tempering my expectations. Well, sometimes it's fun to go in a book with no expectations or great expectations. We'll read that book soon. I love going in. My favorite books have been books that I've gone in with zero expectations and don't know what to think, and you just kind of pick and choose as you go. I feel like that's not going to be the case with any of the books that we read, because you guys are all going to give me like tips and tricks and somewhat of little summaries for the books. But I think it's more fun when you go in with no expectations, because then you can kind of just read it as the book is probably intended to be read, with no expectations. I don't think there's right expectations to go into with a book. Well, sometimes I think it's fun to go in with the wrong expectations, because then you're surprised. Or maybe you come up with a completely different interpretation based on those wrong interpretations, or based on those wrong expectations or lower expectations. Okay, interesting. Hard life on the gloomy moors later than Austen. Interesting. Okay. Where are the moors? Is that where the poor people in England live? Yeah, I'm kind of excited about that too. I feel like there's just going to be a lot that we can kind of probably talk about with a book like that. So, Yorkshire. I got to work on my English accent. The swamp. Oh, Ryan. North England moors. Oof. Sounds cold and wet and damp. Where you can get sick from airborne diseases all the time. Oh, gosh. This place sounds awful. That's cool that all the sisters are. How many of the sisters were there? 3? Because there's 3, right? I think there's 3. Rocky landscape where very little grows. Honestly, it kind of sounds beautiful, but maybe not at the same time. Also, we were going to have a discussion on secrets, but someone told me to wait till we finish this. So we'll have it at the end of our discussion here, because apparently one of the chapters talks about that a little bit. 3 sis, 1 brother. 5, but 2 died early childhood. Wow, 3 Bronte sisters. And all of them were authors, no? What did the other Brontes write? What were all their most famous of books? Total of 6. 5 daughters and a son, and 2 died early on. Man, sad. Yeah, Jane Eyre, The Tenant of Wildfell Hall. Okay, that's what I was looking for. Secret. I got a secret. What's your secret? Tell us. All but Charlotte died of tuberculosis. Yeah, Jane Eyre is going to be one where you read soon. Probably the 4th book we're going to do in our book club, I'm guessing. Because I want to do 4th or 5th. We're going to do Wuthering Heights next. And then maybe a Dickens. I don't know. Like A Tale of Two Cities, I tried to read that when I was in high school for a summer reading, and I hated all my summer readings, and I didn't know what was going on, so I just skimmed the whole thing. So maybe we try A Tale of Two Cities. Yeah, maybe get out of the 19th century. That's actually honestly not a bad idea. What's I mean, we could do Moby Dick. Moby Dick is on the list for this year somewhere. We're gonna do Moby Dick eventually this year. But Great Expectations, maybe. Great Expectations is the only Dickens that I actually have read, other than A Christmas Carol. 700 BC. I'm kind of thinking the Odyssey or the Iliad. That might take long though. I feel like me reading that would take a long time. Yeah, we're gonna do Persuasion. We're gonna do at least one other Austen this year, maybe two. I'm hoping that we can do two. It depends on the other books that we read, if they're long or short or whatever. Um, you can understand J. Cole's Tale of Two Cities better. Jane Bennett as Jane Eyre, born in a nicer family. Interesting. Okay. Huh. So 24 episodes. There's 24 chapters. Oh, that's actually not bad. We could probably knock that out quick. How long are the chapters? Like chapters in quotes. We have to read the poetic version of it. Drowning in the Greco-Roman period. I'm still debating in my head. We will do the Iliad and the Odyssey. Maybe we'll save those for the summer with the movie coming out. Maybe we'll do those after Jane Eyre. So maybe we'll do Wuthering Heights in February. We need maybe A Tale of Two Cities. We need a manly book, you know? I'm definitely gonna do the Painted Veil. Ooh, the Picture of Dorian Gray could be honestly kind of good because it's short, right? That one could be kind of fun. What's a manly book? What's a good manly book? Maybe The Picture of Dorian Gray. We need some men into this book club. We have a few, but Anne of Green Gables is 100% on the list. No, I don't want to read Hemingway right now. There's men in Dorian Gray. Ooh, Red Badge of Courage. Call of the Wild could be kind of fun. Honestly, Iliad is the option for that. But let's do the Iliad after Jane Eyre. Yeah, I don't know if I want to do 1984. Although the movie's coming out, so maybe we do it in conjunction with the movie. That movie looks awful. maybe I'm really wrong about it. That movie looks terrible. Joseph Conrad, that's true. He's the Heart of Darkness. Isn't the Heart of Darkness huge? Yeah, I feel like we need a happy story after Wuthering Heights, right? We should flip-flop between happy and sad. Graham Greene, I read one Graham Greene book, The Power and the Glory, but I didn't like it that much. I don't really remember it. Yeah, we could do some Ray Bradbury, some sci-fi, some classics. Heart of Darkness isn't too long. Maybe Ben-Hur. Let me look this up. Let's look this up, and then I'm gonna look up the manliest classics, and then we'll start. Manliest. It's gonna be like War and Peace is gonna be the top one or something. Manliest classic books. Top 10 books Reddit thread. Classic books. Must read books to truly enter manhood. The Old Man and the Sea is on there. Jack London. For Whom the Bells Toll. Blood Meridian. Beowulf. Slaughterhouse 5. I read a Slaughterhouse 5 and did not like it. White Fang. Yeah, that wasn't a good list. Popular manly books. Is that the picture of Dorian Gray? Yeah, the picture of Dorian Gray is on there, so maybe we'll do that one. That kind of be fun. Could you imagine if I have any of you read Walden? I read Walden in college. Like every white man who likes outdoors reads Walden when they're in college. And I hate the book now. I think it's like one of the worst books ever, and I am not a big Thoreau fan. But imagine reading that book to you guys. You're gonna be like, why is there a whole chapter on him planting beans? That's not even well written. The Great Gatsby, The Prince, Band of Brothers, The Republic by Plato. Call of the Wild could be kind of fun. I feel like that's a winter book too. Maybe we read that in like March. Ooh, Rudyard Kipling could be fun. A little Jungle Book. Teddy Roosevelt's History, 1984. Brave New World. How to Win Friends and Influence People. These aren't even good. This isn't even a good list. Goodreads. Popular manly books. That's what we're going for. Farewell to Arms. It's all Hemingway. Ooh, Fight Club. I don't want to read Fight Club. At least not yet. Blood Meridian. The Art of War. Treasure Island. We could try like 70,000 Leagues Under the Sea or something. It doesn't even give me all that many. I guess there's not a lot of manly books. Undaunted Courage or the Red Badge of Courage. We'll figure it out as we go. Beowulf, I'm going to do on the Lord of the Rings channel eventually. On the actual First Timers channel. I definitely want to do Count of Monte Cristo too, but Count of Monte Cristo would take a year. Yeah, what did I say? Did I say 70,000 Leagues? That's the prequel, 70,000 Leagues Under the Sea, rather than 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I think maybe we'll do the Picture of Dorian Gray. So maybe we'll do that. And then we'll do Jane Eyre. And then after Jane Eyre, we'll do the Iliad or the Odyssey. And then we'll figure it out from there. Yeah, the actual First Timers channel. Yeah, maybe like a half a year, but it still would take long, which I am so excited to do some longer books. Like I cannot wait to reread Anna Karenina and to do Count of Monte Cristo and some of these really long books like Vanity Fair and all those. But those are like, okay, everyone strap up and get ready because we're going to do a long book and it's going to take us 6 months. So we all have to like mentally prepare. I want to get in a few shorter books before we do that one. I think Jane Eyre is going to be the longest one that we do. Maybe we do like the Call of the Wild in March to stick with our wintry theme. Count of Monte Cristo from the library to read for the first time. Ooh, Lime. Let me know how you like it. My dog is crawling under the bed to go take a nap. He really likes it under there. He's funny. Anyway, all right, guys. Yeah, honestly, I forgot about the Russians. How can I forget about the Russians? Maybe we'll do like Crime and Punishment, or I was gonna say Crime and Peace. That is a combination of two authors. Channel, thank you. Yeah, what is the vote at? I forgot. 61 votes, mostly for Austin. Secondary for the Classics Book Club. Thirdly, for me being cool. And fourthly, for Another Reason. Yeah, we'll do the Three Musketeers. We're going to do all these. I feel like there's not a lot of manly books that are really happy, so that is a pretty rarity if that's a happy book. All right, end poll. All right, guys, you ready to jump into some Austin? So we're gonna lose like 40% of our audience when when I start another book. I'm glad that you're gonna stay for the classics. I'm glad. I should have run that another poll. Why will you stay? How can I keep you subscribed? Alrighty, everyone. Let's jump into, what are we on, chapter 46? Is there an actual Forrest Gump book? There's not an actual Forrest Gump book, is there? Is there? No way. The Prisoner of Zenda. Huh. What counts as a classic? There actually is? That's crazy. That's funny. Once I read the Pirates of the Caribbean book because I thought it was different from the movie, but it is literally just scene for scene from the movie. They just took a movie and just made it into a book. I don't know why they did that. That seems absurd to me. But, you know, to each their own. Please don't read Forrest Gump. Lana really hates Forrest Gump. Never read Jaws. I'm glad you like the channel. Also, everyone, quickly like the video or like the stream, so more classics people can jump on and read some classics with us, so we can have a good book club. All right, here we go. Chapter 46 of Pride and Prejudice. Let's see how much reading we have today. I feel I'm have to be honest, I'm maybe slightly confused why there's still so much left of this book. We still have like a third. We'll see. Chapter 46. Elizabeth had been a good deal disappointed in not finding a letter from Jane on their first arrival at Lambton, and this disappointment had been renewed on each of the mornings that had now been spent there. But on the third, her repining was over, and her sister, justified by the receipt of 2 letters from her at once, on one of which was marked that it had been missent elsewhere. Elizabeth was not surprised at it, as Jane had written the direction remarkably ill. They had just been preparing to walk as the letters came in, and her aunt and uncle, leaving her to enjoy them in quiet, set off by themselves. The one missent must be first attended to. It had been written 5 days ago. The beginning contained an account of all their little parties and engagements, with such news as the country afforded. But the latter half, which was dated a day later and written in evident agitation, gave more important intelligence. It was to this effect. More important intelligence. Sorry, there's a bunch of fuzzies on my mic that keep just moving. All right, here we go. There's intelligence going on. Since the writing above, dearest Lizzie, something has occurred of a most unexpected and serious nature, but I am afraid of alarming you. Be assured that we are all well. What I have to say relates to poor Lydia. An express came at 12 last night, just as we were all gone to bed, from Colonel Forster, to inform us that she was off to Scotland with one of his officers to own the truth with Wickham. Imagine our surprise. To Kitty, however, it does not seem wholly unexpected. I am very, very sorry. So imprudent a match on both sides. Whoa. Wow. Are they going off and just shagging in Scotland, or are they eloping? They're eloping. Wow. You know what? They both get what they deserve. They're both awful characters and they deserve each other. Huh. Imagine our surprise. To Kitty, however, it does not seem so wholly unexpected. I am very, very sorry, so imprudent a match on both sides. But I am willing to hope the best, and that his character has been misunderstood. Thoughtless and indiscreet, I can easily believe him. But this step, and let us rejoice over it, marks nothing bad at heart. His choice is disinterested at least, for he must know my father can give her nothing. Our poor mother is sadly grieved. My father bears it better. How thankful am I that we never let them know what has been said against him. We must forget it ourselves. They were off Saturday night about 12, as is conjectured, but were not missed till yesterday morning at 8. Is he going to get clocked for desertion because he's in the army? Oh, that's right. She's a child. I keep forgetting that. Well, and I'm not going to say it's not bad. What is it? What is it coming of age in this society? Ooh, a scandal on the whole family. So that's for them not chatting, right? Yeah, that's kind of right. You're considered of age when you're socially out, which is Lydia. 21 to marry without permission. Wow, that's crazy. That's older than ours, right? Don't you have to be 18 to marry without permission in ours? She's out too early. There was a blacksmith in a Scottish town called Gretna Green who would marry people. Interesting. This is juicy. She's too young. That's so. What is his motive? He's not trying to get money. Does he realize that he needs to just settle down? Is he a deserter? Is he deserting the military? Isn't he going to get in some serious trouble for that? All right, let's keep reading. Fine. Where are we? They were off Saturday night about 12, as is conjectured, but were not missed till yesterday morning at 8. The express was off directly. My dear Lizzie, they must have passed within 10 miles of us. Colonel Forster gives us reason to expect him here soon. Lydia left a few lines for his wife, informing her of their intention. I must conclude, for I cannot be long from my poor mother. I am afraid you will not be able to make it out, but I hardly know what I have written. Another thing, wouldn't a trip up to Scotland take a week or more? How long would that trip be? That trip must be so long. Without allowing herself time for consideration and scarcely knowing what she felt, Elizabeth, on finishing this letter, instantly seized the other, and opening it with the utmost patience, read as follows. It had been written a day later than the conclusion of the first. But hold on, here's my thought. It took wherever Lizzie was, she was 25 miles from London, right? And then it took her half of a day to get up there. So if they're traveling, we're doing some math here. If they're traveling, let's say it takes 50 miles to a day. That's 2 weeks. They took an express coach. What's an express coach? They're for sure going to stop at inns, though. You know that she's going to stop at inns and she's going to go all over the place. Lydia needs the best. Yeah, I might need to post a map again. Switching horses and keeping going. Okay, interesting. Poor horses. All right, let's read the second letter. By this time, my dearest sister, you have received my hurried letter. I wish this may be more intelligible. But though not confined for time, my head is so bewildered that I cannot answer for being coherent. Dearest Lizzie, I hardly know what I would write, but I have bad news for you, and it cannot be delayed. Imprudent as a marriage between Mr. Wickham and our poor Lydia would be, we are now anxious to be assured it has taken place. For there is but too much reason to fear they are not gone to Scotland. Colonel Forster came yesterday, having left Brighton the day before, not many hours after the express, though Lydia's short letters to Mrs. F. gave them to understand that they were going to Gretna Green. Something was dropped by Denny expressing his belief that W. never intended to go there, or to marry Lydia at all, which was repeated to Colonel F., who, instantly taking the alarm, set off from B., intending to trace their route. He did trace them easily to Clapham, but no farther, for on entering that place they removed into a hackney coach and dismissed the chaise that brought them from Epsom. All that is known after this is that they are seen to continue the London road. I know not what to think. After making every possible enquiry on that side, London, Colonel F. came into Hertfordshire, anxiously renewing them at all the turnpikes, and at the inns in Barnet and Hatsfield, but without any success. No such people had been seen to pass through. With the kindest concern, he came on to Longbourn and broke his apprehension to us in a manner most creditable to his heart. I am sincerely grieved for him and Mrs. F., but no one can throw any blame on them. Our distress, my dear Lizzie, is very great. My father and mother believe the worst, but I cannot think so ill of him. Many circumstances might make it more eligible for them to be married privately in town than to pursue their first plan. And even if he could form such a design against a young woman of Lydia's connections, which is not likely, can I suppose her so lost to everything? Impossible. I grieve to find, however, that Colonel F. is not disposed to depend upon their marriage. He shook his head when I expressed my hopes, and said he feared W. was not a man to be trusted. My poor mother is really ill and keeps her room. Could she exert herself, it would be better. But this is not to be expected. And as to my father, I never in my life saw him so affected. Poor Kitty has anger for having concealed their attachment. Oh, but it was a matter of confidence, one cannot wonder. Interesting. I am truly glad, dearest Lizzie, that you have been spared something of these distressing scenes. But now as the first shock is over, shall I own that I long for your return? I am not so selfish, however, as to press for it, if inconvenient. Adieu. I take up my pen again to do what I have just told you I would not. But circumstances are such that I cannot help earnestly begging you all to come here as soon as possible. I know my dear uncle and aunt so well that I am not afraid of requesting it. Oh no, is this going to ruin Lizzie's dinner plans? No! I really wanted to see them have dinner with each other. My father is going to London with Colonel Forster instantly to try to discover her. What he means to do, I am sure I know not, but his excessive distress will not allow him to pursue any measure in the best and safest way. And Colonel Forster is obliged to be at Brighton again tomorrow evening. In such an exigence, my uncle's advice and assistance would be everything in the world. He will immediately comprehend what I must feel, and I rely upon his goodness. So, There was a lot of stuff in that letter that I feel like is trying to paint people in the best light because it's a letter from Jane. What is behind this? Did Wickham and Lydia, were they really into each other when Wickham was flirting with Lizzie? Like, how long has Wickham been into Lydia? And is his motivation there made known? What is his actual motivation? Yeah, my parents are getting on my nerves. I for sure need reinforcement, which I don't blame her. I know he's a sleazeball for sure. It just... I don't... I don't know what... I just don't understand it then. Because I'm thinking, if he's going for money, then Lydia Bennet is not the person he should go for. What does she have? She has nothing. So what is he trying to gain? What is he getting? He can't do... Wait, time out. If you get married, can you get out of military service? He's just looking for a good time, just company. That's crazy. Dang, she just becomes a soldier's wife. This is wild. All right, let's keep reading because it's like it's tough for me because if I know he's a sleazeball. Like, we all know that. But he was a money-grabbing sleazeball. Now I don't know what kind of sleazeball he is. Just a hedonistic? Is he a hedonist? He's a hedonist, probably. But so is Lydia in some way. Did Lydia go there specifically so that this could happen? Yeah, he definitely has a thing for younger women, which are in compromising positions, which isn't great. Okay. All right. I'll keep reading. Jay and Fitz are like, just shut up and read. I mean, I'm most disappointed that Lizzie's dinner plans are probably going to be ruined now. But I guarantee you that Darcy's going to be like, oh, take everything that I have. I will give you all of my horses and all my chases just to go home. Darcy's going to be great. All right, let's keep reading. Oh, where is my uncle? Cried Elizabeth, darting from her seat as she finished the letter, in eagerness to follow him without losing a moment of time so precious. But as she reached the door, it was opened by a servant. And Mr. Darcy appeared. Her pale face and impetuous manner made him start, and before he could recover himself enough to speak, she, in whose mind every idea was suspended by Lydia's situation, hastily exclaimed, I beg your pardon. I must leave you. I must find Mr. Gardiner in this moment. On business that cannot be delayed. I have not an instant to lose. Good God. What is the matter? Cried he, with more feeling than politeness, then recollecting himself. Time out. What was Darcy doing there? Was he about to propose again? I will not detain you a minute, But let me or the servant go after Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner. You are not well enough. You cannot go yourself. Huh. Good. Elizabeth hesitated, but her knees trembled under her, and she felt how little would be gained by her attempting to pursue them. Calling back the servant, therefore, she commissioned him, though in so breathless an accent as made her almost unintelligible, to fetch his master and mistress home instantly. On his quitting the room, she sat down, unable to support herself, and looking so miserably ill that it was impossible for Darcy to leave her, or to refrain from saying in a tone of gentleness and commiseration, "Let me call your maid. Is there nothing you could take to give you present relief? A glass of wine? Shall I get you one? You are very ill." "No, I thank you," she replied, endeavoring to recover herself. "There is nothing the matter with me. I am quite well. I am only distressed by some dreadful news, which I have just received from Longbourn." She burst into tears as she alluded to it, and for a few minutes could not speak another word. Is this how much is this going to ruin the family? I know that Lizzie's mourning because of this, because it's her sister, obviously. She's a good sister. She doesn't, this is going to sound harsh. She doesn't care that much. She doesn't care that much about Lydia making this decision. Yes, she cares. But I think this is more so going to ruin the family, right? They will never find good husbands. Yikes. Yikes. Okay. Darcy and Elizabeth couldn't get married. Wow. Because the family would just be in such societal disrepute. Interesting. So that's really why Lizzie's kind of mourning here. That's actually tough. That makes it even tougher that Darcy's showing up here. Because this is a reminder of what she can't have now if this happens. Ouch. This hurts now. This hurts even more. Okay, let's keep reading. There is nothing the matter with me. I am quite well. I am only distressed by some dreadful news which I have just received from Longbourn. She burst into tears as she alluded to it, and for a few minutes could not speak another word. Darcy, in wretched suspense, could only say something indistinctly of his concern, and observe her in compassionate silence. He just wants to hug her, but he can't. At length she spoke again. "I have just had a letter from Jane with such dreadful news. It cannot be concealed from anyone. My youngest sister has left all her friends, has eloped, has thrown herself into the power of Mr. Wickham. They are gone off together from Brighton. You know him too well to doubt the rest." Hold on. Okay. Weird conjecture and guess that I have right now, which should make this crazy. I feel like this is still going to happen because both of them are idiots. Oh, I feel like this is how Darcy's going to get back at him. Is Darcy, because he is Darcy's not a benefactor of this guy, but they still have some kind of relation, don't they? So is Darcy going to go and make sure that they actually do get married and this is some kind of honorable marriage in some way, legally? And so that way Wickham would be stuck in this marriage that he doesn't want to be in. And also Darcy would be like giving him the middle finger, being like, you get what you deserve. Interesting. I feel like that's going to happen. I don't know, but no one tell me a thing. I feel like that's going to happen. Is he in some way going to know this? Or have some kind of connection there? Huh. Interesting. Okay. Okay. Here we go. I have to. What was the last sentence? My youngest sister has left all her friends, has eloped, has thrown herself into the power of Mr. Wickham. They are gone off together from Brighton. You know him too well to doubt the rest. She has no money, no connections, nothing that can tempt him to. She is lost forever. Darcy was fixed in astonishment. When I consider, she added, in a yet more agitated voice, that I might have prevented it. I who knew what he was. Had I but explained some part of it only. Some part of what I learnt to my family. Had his character been known, this could not have happened. But it is all too late now. I mean, I think that she's kind of right, but I actually don't think that she could have stopped this. I think Lydia still would have run off. Because there's an element where, yes, he's a predator, but Lydia is... She seems like very willing to go along with this. Maybe that's just because of her age. But I don't know. Like I don't know necessarily the person of who Lizzie is yet. Or Lydia is yet. She just seems really vain. It's interesting that you mentioned that because I don't know, like Lydia doesn't want to have her reputation ruined. Maybe, in my head, she would throw away her whole family's reputation for her own happiness in an instant. But I don't know that much about her yet. I don't know. That's a weird one. I'll have to come back to that one. Let me write a note. With Lydia... knowing about W. Like, I don't know. I don't know. That's a fascinating one because she might be miserable if like her family didn't let her do this. It would be for her own good, obviously, but let's keep reading. I am grieved indeed, cried Darcy. Grieved, shocked, but it is certain, absolutely certain. Oh yes, they left Brighton together on Sunday night, and were traced almost to London, but not beyond. They are certainly not gone to Scotland. And what has been done? What has been attempted to recover her? My father has gone to London, and Jane has written to beg my uncle's immediate assistance, and we shall be off. I hope in half an hour. But nothing can be done. I know very well that nothing can be done. How is such a man to be worked on? How are they even to be discovered? I have not the smallest hope. It is every way horrible. Darcy shook his head in silent acquiescence. When my eyes were open to his real character, oh, had I known what I ought, what I dared to do, but I knew not. I was afraid of doing too much. Wretched, wretched mistake. Darcy made no answer. He seemed scarcely to hear her. He was walking up and down the room in earnest meditation, his brow contracted, his air gloomy. Elizabeth soon observed and instantly understood it. Her power was sinking. Oh, no. Her power was sinking. Everything must sink under such a proof of family weakness. Such an assurance of the deepest disgrace. No, crap. Hold on. No, this is gonna be agony for a second because he's gonna probably leave with the intention of going after Wickham, but she's gonna think that he's leaving because her family's situation is so low and that he doesn't want to be with her anymore because of this. No, come on. Just communicate. We need some clear communication. Darcy, please do me a favor, Darcy, and just tell her the reason why you were leaving. Don't just leave in a whirlwind, please. She could neither wonder nor condemn, but the belief of his self-conquest brought nothing consolatory to her bosom, afforded no palliation of her distress. It was, on the contrary, exactly calculated to make her understand her own wishes, and never had she so honestly felt that she could have loved him as now, when all love must be vain. Dang. You don't know what you have till it's gone. But self, though it would intrude, could not engross her. Lydia, the humiliation, the misery she was bringing on all of them, soon swallowed up every private care, and covering her face with her handkerchief, Elizabeth was soon lost to everything else, and after a pause of several minutes was only recalled to a sense of her situation by the voice of her companion, who, in a manner which, though it spoke compassion, spoke likewise restraint, said, "I'm afraid you have been long desiring my absence, nor have I anything to plead in excuse of my stay. But real though unavailing concern. Would to heaven that anything could be either said or done on my part that might offer consolation to such distress, but I will not torment you with vain wishes, which may seem purposely to ask for your thanks. This unfortunate affair will, I fear, prevent my sisters having the pleasure of seeing you at Pemberley today." Oh yes, be so kind as to apologize for us to Miss Darcy. Say that urgent business calls us home immediately. Conceal the unhappy truth as long as it is possible. I know it cannot be long. He readily assured her of his secrecy. Again expressed his sorrow for her distress. Wished it a happier conclusion than there was at present reason to hope, and leaving his compliments for her relations with only one serious parting look, went away. Not a great amount of communication between these two. These two really need to work on their communication. Or maybe more so, he needs to work on his communication. As he quitted the room, Elizabeth felt how improbable it was that they should ever see each other again on terms of cordiality as had marked their several meetings in Derbyshire. And as she threw a retrospective glance over the whole of their acquaintance, so full of contradictions and varieties, sighed at the perverseness of those feelings, which would now have promoted its continuance, and would formerly have rejoiced in its termination. If gratitude and esteem are good foundations of affection, Elizabeth's change of sentiment will be neither improbable nor faulty. But if otherwise, if the regard springing from such sources is unreasonable or unnatural, in comparison of what is so often described as arising on a first interview with its object, and even before 2 words have been exchanged, nothing can be said in her defense except that she had given somewhat of a trial to the latter method, in her partiality for Wickham, and that its ill success might perhaps authorize her to seek the other less interesting mode of attachment. Wait, what is she saying? But otherwise, if the regard springing from such sources is unreasonable or unnatural, in comparison to what is often described as arising on first interview with its subject, and even before 2 words have been exchanged, nothing can be said in her defense except that she had given somewhat of a trial to the latter method, in her partiality for Wickham, and that a success might perhaps authorize her to seek the other less interesting mode of attachment. But that as it may, she saw him go with regret, and in this early example of what Lydia's infamy must produce, found additional anguish as she reflected on that wretched business. Never since reading Jane's second letter had she entertained a hope of Wickham's meaning to marry her. No one but Jane, she thought, could flatter herself with such an expectation. Surprise was the least of her feelings on this development. While the contents of the first letter remained on her, she was all surprise, all astonishment that Wickham should marry a girl whom it was impossible he could marry for money, which is very valid. Oh, Fitz, thanks for the 13.99 Canadians. There's no accompanying letter in the post from Mr. or Mrs. Bennett to Mr. Gardner. The girls are the only ones trying to solve this. Ooh, wow. That's a great point. Mr. Bennett has gone to London, so he's doing something. He's trying to find his daughter in some way. But is he? But it is a good point. They're not thinking logically. They're like children. They're the Jane is the adult in this situation. Wes just burped over there. Okay. And how Lydia could ever have attracted him had appeared incomprehensible. All right, well, that was unnecessary. But now it was all too natural. For such an attachment as this, she might have sufficient charms. And though she did not suppose Lydia to be deliberately engaging in an elopement without the intention of marriage, she had no difficulty in believing that neither her virtue nor understanding would preserve her from falling an easy prey. Oh, so Lizzie knows this is more like a prey-predator thing. She had never perceived while the regiment was in Hertfordshire that Lydia had any partiality for him. But she was convinced that Lydia had only wanted encouragement to attach herself to anybody. Sometimes one officer, sometimes another had been her favorite, as their attentions raised them in her opinion. Her affection had been continually fluctuating, but never without an object, the mischief of neglect and mistaken indulgence towards such a girl. Oh, how acutely did she now feel it? There's something about them together that inflames the egos of the other. Like, Wickham has found someone who can, like, Lydia is charming, I think. Like, her charm probably wooed Wickham. And the way that she probably listens to his stories and commiserates with him and like is gossipy with him, I'm sure was like, Wickham was like, oh, dang, this is great. Someone who like fully believes my story, who is like with me. And then for Lydia, his charm also did that, where he probably is getting more and more. And again, I don't know if he's into her or not. I still don't know what is going on here. Like, I'm still pretty befuddled, I guess you'd call it. Because I just don't know what Wickham's motivation is. But it almost seems like he really likes how Lydia probably strokes his ego a little bit. And she's like, oh, or he's like, oh, someone that seems like she's kind of into me, like legitimately into me. Like my charm, who like is feeding into the charm side. With Elizabeth, I think the charm just faded because he was like off to the next person. But Lydia seems like a constant source of like charm arousement. Someone he could use and control. Maybe. But yeah, and I think that the tough thing is like, Wickham is like a nasty person. So I think because of me being at this point in the novel, it just flips that on its head a little bit and going, okay, what is his motivation? Because his motivation was money before, and now his motivation is no longer money, it appears. So I'm just as confused as everyone else in this story. I mean, you guys might know the rest, but I am lost. What does he want? And I know he's like predatory, but like that doesn't explain his behavior right here to me. Maybe it just is so foreign to me that it just doesn't make sense. So I don't know. I'm going to keep reading because I really don't know. Where am I? don't think. Um, hmm. Yeah, we'll talk about this when we finish. Hold on. Let me keep reading. She had never perceived, while the regiment was in Hertfordshire, that Lydia had any partiality for him, but she was convinced that Lydia had only wanted encouragement to attach herself to anybody. Sometimes one officer, yada yada, we just read that. She was wild to be at home, to hear, to see, to be upon the spot, to share with Jane in cares that must now fall wholly upon her, in a family so deranged. A father absent, a mother incapable of exertion, and requiring constant attendance. And though almost persuaded that nothing could be done for Lydia, her uncle's interference seemed of the utmost importance. Until he entered the room, the misery of her impatience was severe. Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner had hurried back in alarm, supposing, by the servant's account, that their niece was taken suddenly ill, but satisfying them instantly on that head, she eagerly communicated the cause of their summons, reading the 2 letters aloud, and dwelling on the postscript of the last with trembling energy. Though Lydia had never been a favorite with them, Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner could not but be deeply affected. Not Lydia only, but all were concerned in it. And after the first exclamations of surprise and horror, Mr. Gardiner readily promised every assistance in power. Elizabeth, though expecting no less, thanked him with tears of gratitude, and all 3 being acutely actuated by one spirit, everything relating to their journey was speedily settled. They were to be off as soon as possible. But what is to be done about Pemberley? Cried Mrs. Gardiner. John told us Mr. Darcy was here when you sent for us. Was it so? Yes, and I told him we should not be able to keep our engagement. That is all settled. That is all settled, repeated the other, as she ran into her room to prepare. Are they upon such terms as for her to disclose the real truth? Oh, that I knew how it was. The Gardiners are great. Just so excellent. Just hopping into action immediately, thinking logically. But wishes were vain, or at best could serve only to amuse her in hurry and confusion of the following hour. Had Elizabeth been at leisure to be idle, she would have remained certain that all employment was to be idle. She would have remained certain that all employment was impossible to one so wretched as herself, but she had her share of business as well as her aunt. And amongst the rest there were notes to be written to all their friends in Lambton with false excuses for their sudden departure. An hour, however, saw the whole completed, and Mr. Gardiner, meanwhile, having settled his account at the inn, nothing remained to be done but to go. And Elizabeth, after the misery of the morning, found herself in a shorter space of time than she could have supposed, seated in the carriage on the road to Longbourn. Now, why? I know why they're going to Longbourn, but they seem to be close. Are they close to Brighton? Hold on, I need a map. Map of Pride and Prejudice. Map of Pride and Prejudice. This is what we really are going for. Brighton is by the sea, no? They seem... wouldn't they be close to Brighton? Or is Brighton in the south? Oh, Brighton's way down south. Okay. Posting to Discord. Thank you. Let me pull this sucker up. Thank you. Brighton's in the south. London, Hertfordshire... Kenilworth. It's a little fuzzy. Okay. Dang, so they really have to go the entirety of England in order to get up to Scotland. That's rough. What the heck? Something just crashed. Trig, what's up? The UK is smaller than Cali. It's not too far apart. But Cali's huge. It takes so long to get anywhere in California. But yeah, they're not going to Brighton, but I guess they have to go down south because they're running and gallivanting around London right now. Gosh, talk about drama. When everything was about to be perfect, just throw a little grenade in the whole entire plan. I was so excited for that dinner at Pemberley. Come on. Freaking Lydia has to ruin everything. And honestly, maybe this is terrible of me to say, but why couldn't the letters have been delayed just one more day? Come on. Just so I could have gotten that little meeting at Pemberley. That would have been so lovely to have a dinner with them. And killing me, Lydia. Lydia is she would just listen. And if Wickham wasn't such a predator. So many shoulda, coulda, wouldas. All right, let's read. We're on chapter 47. Man, I don't understand what Wickham is doing. Like this, it's strange. It just seems out of character for him, which it's not out of character because he's being predatory and he's going after a younger girl. Just seems like he's not going for money right now, which I don't know. Because each of them have what, like $2,000, $1,000? Is he just going after that? Did he rack up some gambling debt and he like really needs to like get out of that gambling debt? That would make him an even bigger loser. All right, guys, I'll read and find out. All right. We're on chapter 47 now. This is another long chapter. These are good long ones. Man, I am so confused. I have been thinking it over, Elizabeth, said her uncle, as they drove from the town. And really, upon serious consideration, I am much... Hold on one second. I have to write a quick note about this. What is his motivate? How do you spell motivation? All right, chapter 47. I have been thinking it over again, Elizabeth, said her uncle, as they drove from the town. And really, upon serious consideration, I am much more inclined than I was to judge as your eldest sister does the matter. It appears to me so very unlikely that any young man should form such a design against a girl who is by no means unprotected or friendless. And who actually staying in his colonel's family, that I am strongly inclined to hope the best. Could he expect that her friends would not step forward? Could he expect to be noticed again by the regiment? And it really is interesting because maybe Wickham is so crafty that he sees how bad of parents the Bennets are, and they're like, oh, they won't really raise any objections to this. But maybe, I don't know. Could he expect that her friends would not step forward? Could he expect to be noticed again by the regiment after such an affront to Colonel Forster? His temptation is not adequate to the risk. And he's on the same point that I'm at, just confused, thinking maybe it is for the best to some extent. Maybe not for the best, but like maybe not as bad as they think. Do you really think so? Cried Elizabeth, brightening up for a moment. Upon my word, said Mrs. Gardiner, I begin to be of your uncle's opinion. It is really too great a violation of decency, honor, and interest for him to be guilty of it. I cannot think so very ill of Wickham, can you? Yourself, Lizzie? So wholly give him up as to believe him capable of it? Oh, no, she's going to spill the beans. Not perhaps of neglecting his own interests, but of every other neglect I can believe him capable. Oh, so that's why. So they don't know about all this stuff, and now Lizzie's going to spill the beans about it. And they're going to go, oh, crap, now we actually do kind of think the worst. If indeed it should be so, but I dare not hope on it. Why should they not go on to Scotland, if that had been the case? In the first place, replied Mr. Gardiner, there is no absolute proof that they are not gone to Scotland. Oh, but their removing from the Chase into a hackney coach is such a presumption, and besides, no traces of them were to be found on the Barnet Road. Well then, supposing them to be in London, they may be there, though for the purpose of concealment, for no more exceptional purpose. It is not likely that money should be very abundant on either side, and it might strike them that they could be more economically, though less expeditiously, married in London than in Scotland. But why all this secrecy? Why any fear of detection? Why must their marriage be private? Oh, no, 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 this is not likely. His most particular friend, you see by Jane's account, was persuaded of his never intending to marry her. Wickham will never marry a woman without some money. He cannot afford it. And what claims has Lydia? What attractions has she beyond youth, health, and good humor that could make him, for her sake, forego every chance of benefiting himself by marrying well? As to what restraint the apprehension of disgrace in the corps might throw on the dishonorable elopement with her, I am not able to judge, for I know nothing of the effects that such a step might produce. But as to your other objections, I am afraid I will hardly hold good. Lydia has no brothers to step forward. And he might imagine from my father's behavior, from his indolence and the little attention he has ever seemed to give to what was going forward in his family, that he would do as little and think as little about it as any father could do in such a manner. Ouch. But can you think that Lydia is so lost to everything but love of him as to consent to live with him on any other terms than marriage? It does seem, and that is most shocking indeed, replied Elizabeth, with tears in her eyes, that a sister's sense of decency and virtue in such a point should admit of doubt. But really, I know not what to say. Perhaps I am not doing her justice, but she is very young. She has never been taught to think on serious subjects, and for the last half year, nay, for 12 months, she has been given up to nothing but amusement and vanity. She has been allowed to dispose of her time in the most idle and frivolous manner, to adopt any opinion that came her way. Since the Shire were first quartered in Meryton, nothing but love, flirtation, and officers have been in her head. She has been doing everything in her power by thinking and talking on the subject, to give greater, what shall I call it, susceptibility to her feelings, which are naturally lively enough. When we all know that Wickham has every charm of person and address that can captivate a woman. Man, she is cutting to the core here. And I like that she's kind of confronting her parents to the Gardiners about this. I'm curious what the Gardiners are really going to be saying about this. Kiffy coming into Pride and Prejudice halfway through. Welcome. This is a whirlwind right now. Dude, so much drama in this. This book requires me to read a bit more quickly than Lord of the Rings, where I can stop in every paragraph. It is interesting that she is really talking about her family in such she's being passive aggressive toward her mom and dad. She's so in control of this discussion right now. And it's so funny too, because she was so wrong in Prejudice before, and now she is right on everything. And she's every single thing that she says is just hitting the nail on the head. Man. Is the dialogue harder? Honestly, I will say the reading of this straight up is easier than Tolkien. Tolkien's word order in sentences is really interesting. It's beautiful because I think he's saying things in different languages and different styles of speaking. This is easier to just read straight up. And I think I have to stay a little bit more focused when I read Pride and Prejudice to make sure I'm really paying attention to what's happening. And it's a bit tricky, but yeah, I definitely can't blame her. I think Elizabeth really has has a good pulse on this conversation right now, which is really interesting because this is probably the most emotional that she has been in the entire book right now. Which again is really interesting because it's like a counterpoint to stereotypes, and when she is at her most emotional is when she is at her sharpest. You know what I mean? Like, she's really hitting at every single point so well here. She's like, my dad's not really doing much. She says, to give to what was going forward in his family, that he would do as little and think about it as little, think as little about it as any father could do in such a manner. And then she's like, Lydia hasn't even been constrained. She hasn't really been learning. She hasn't been doing anything except going to flirt with the officers, which is really her mom's fault, because her mom just wants them married. And her mom is like, this is great. But they're not getting educated, and they're not getting smarter to actually be of more attraction to people in society. So she's like her mother's doing the opposite of what her mother really should be doing. That might be a video. Making her... Yeah, Lizzie is asking the right questions, for sure. For sure, totally agree. Both her mother and her father should be teaching her. And her father especially. Like, yeah, I know like her mom is kind of like an airhead, but her father has so much time. Stop just reading in your room and go read a book to your daughter. And just make her see stuff. Like, you're not doing anything. You're not working. You're just making money off of land right now. You probably have to settle like a dispute maybe like once a week. And then you're just in your library just chilling. Dude, go be a dad. Go father. All right, let's keep reading before I really spiral out of control. But you see that Jane, said her aunt, does not think so ill of Wickham as to believe him capable of the attempt. Which is really interesting. Jane is just too pure here. Read her Fortis's sermons. Anything but that, please. Please, please, please. Of whom does Jane ever think ill? And who is there, whatever might be their former conduct, that she would believe capable of such an attempt, till it were proved against them? But Jane knows as well as I do what Wickham really is. Now, this is a fascinating question, too, with this. And Jane knows what Wickham is, and she's still choosing to see the best in him. So, like, that's Jane's flaw. That's not really even naivety. That's like willful ignorance, which is what she was doing. I mean, I made a video about that. She was willfully ignoring, what was it? What was that specific video? She's living in willful denial of like who people really are. Now she knows who someone is. She knows the character of Wickham, and she's still choosing to believe the best in him, which is a really admirable quality in some people, but that is just too much. You know? Carolyn Bingley, that's what it was. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Maybe that's the next book we'll read. We'll read Fortis's sermons. I feel like that'd be hilarious to read them on stream. Maybe we'll read one of them. Yeah, relentlessly optimistic, maybe hopeful. I think it could be interpreted as a few different things. At this point, this is the only part in the novel where I'm a little frustrated at her, but maybe not, because she is... Like, I'm not necessarily frustrated at her, but I guess she could do nothing really to stop this. She's the only one that is like parenting in this sense. I don't think it's toxic positivity, to be completely honest. I don't like, maybe that's because I have such a good opinion of Jane, but I don't view it as that much. Toxic positivity, my neighbor is shoveling outside and it's so distracting because all I can hear is... Can you guys hear that too? It's so annoying. Yeah, Jay, I'm kind of the same. I feel like she can never really be toxic, you know? Yeah, that's a good point. She's like holding on to hope. That's all she has. I think that's what keeps her going on. She has to believe the best in people, which is kind of lovely. Yeah, she's so sweet. She makes her teeth hurt. For sure. And she's probably had to learn to be positive in negative situations because her parents are really like not doing a great job. Anyway, let's keep reading because what a whirlwind. Everything was going so good. Anybody watch Game of Thrones? This was like the Red Wedding. Everything is just going so good. And then all of a sudden, everyone's head is getting chopped off. Come on, freaking Wickham. This is so annoying. Everything was going so good. Lizzie and was about to get with Darcy. Jane was about to get back with Bingley. Everything was about to like just be perfect and so nice. Yeah, you probably know about the Red Wedding without knowing about the Red Wedding. This is so annoying. Also, everyone liked the stream, so this can get out to more classics, people. I'm just livid right now. All right, I'm going to keep reading. But Jane knows as well as I do what Wickham really is. We both know what he has been profligating in every sense of the word. That he has neither integrity nor honor, that he is false and deceitful as he is insinuating. And do you really know all of this? Cried Mrs. Gardiner, whose curiosity as to the motive of her intelligence was all alive. I do indeed, replied Elizabeth, coloring. I told you the other day of his infamous behavior to Mr. Darcy, and you yourself, when last at Longbourn, heard in what manner he spoke of the man, who had behaved with such forbearance and liberality toward him. And there are other circumstances which I am not at liberty, which it is not worthwhile to relate, but his lies about the whole Pemberley family are endless. From what he said of Miss Darcy, I was thoroughly prepared to see a proud, reserved, disagreeable girl. Yet he knew to the contrary himself. He must know that she was amiable and unpretending as we have found her. You know what would be an interesting comparison? Comparing Lydia with Georgiana. You know? I don't know. I feel like there's like how, like, in what ways are they similar and what ways are they different? Because they're really nothing alike, but they kind of are two people that fell prey to Wickham. Both tall, both 16, and one plays the piano. Yeah, both 15 and both parentless, 100%. Which is so interesting that they're the ones that kind of fell prey to this. Yeah, both gullible for sure. I'm now naming one of your bicycles after Georgiana. Decided this after the recent read through. She is a great side character. That's a great name for a bicycle too, to be completely honest. Yeah, Wickham's 27, 28, right? Only has one brother. Interesting point. Naive young girls need protection. Yeah. One sec. This is so interesting. A virtuous brother honestly might make all the difference. One strong male figure in life is almost the difference between a Lydia and a Georgiana. There's something there. I don't know what kind of essay there is there, but there's something there. All right, let's keep reading. You guys debate that in the comments because I would actually be really curious to see what you guys think of that. And then I'll come back and read that. Georgiana had educated, moral, serious subjects. Lydia didn't. Yeah, it's true. They're similar, but they're almost not in the same way. Georgiana reminds me a little bit of Jane. Like, she's smarter, but she also thinks the best of people. Lydia almost reminds me a bit of, I'm going to say this, and this is going to sound weird, but Elizabeth in knowing, like, good and bad about a person, but just being, like, maybe she's a little like Jane, too, in that she's willfully ignorant of that, or she just wants attention herself. All right, let's keep reading. Can she be ignorant of what you and Jane seem so well to understand? Oh, yes, that is worst of all. Till I was in Kent and saw so much both of Darcy and his relation, Colonel Fitzwilliam, I was ignorant of the truth myself. And when I returned home, the Shire was to leave Meryton in a week or fortnight's time. My neighbor is just shoveling the ice, and it's just right under my window. It's just so loud. I'm so distracted right now. Yeah, it is a great point, AJP. She's essentially telling them, she's navigating through this very well. Elizabeth is not giving all the details because she talked to so she mentioned something here. She says, which caught me off guard a little bit. I told you the other day of his infamous behavior to Mr. Darcy. I don't remember that conversation perfectly, but what did she say and what did she not say? Because she essentially was like, yeah, his behavior isn't great. I can't tell you, but she left out the Georgiana bit, but then she seems to be talking about the Georgiana bit here. She mentioned the inheritance thing. She said the part about the will. Oh. Wickham wanted to be Darcy so bad. So we never really saw that conversation. I believe she simply pointed out that Wickham bus marched Georgiana on his character. Besmirched. Oh, bus marched. That's a good word for besmirched. Good typo. What did Lizzie? We're talking about what did Lizzie? Dictation is stuff. What did Lizzie tell the gardeners about Wickham? We weren't like fully in that conversation, so I'm curious. But it does seem like she's filling in some of the details. But it also is like she's talking about Georgiana and their elopement almost a little openly. But actually, no, because he's talking about the first thing that Wickham said of Georgiana. So he's not talking about their elopement. Or she's not talking about his elopement. Their elopement. Okay, let's keep reading. As that was the case, neither Jane, to whom I related the whole, nor I, though, thought it necessary to make our knowledge public. For of what use could it apparently be to anyone, that the good opinion which all the neighborhood had of him should then be overthrown? And even when it was settled that Lydia should go with Mrs. Forrester, the necessity of opening her eyes to his character never occurred to me. That she could be in any danger from the deception never entered my head. That such a consequence as this should ensue, you may easily believe was far enough from my thoughts. When they all removed to Brighton, therefore, you had no reason, I suppose, to believe them fond of each other. Not the slightest. I can remember no symptom of affection on either side. And had anything of the kind been perceptible, you must be aware that ours is not a family on which it could be thrown away. When first he entered the corps, she was ready enough to admire him. But so we all were. Every girl in or near Meryton was out on her senses about him for the first 2 months, but he never distinguished her by any particular attention, and consequently, after a moderate period of extravagant and wild admiration, her fancy for him gave way, and others of the regiment who treated her with more distinction again became her favorites. It may be easily believed that, however little of novelty could be added to their fears, hopes, and conjectures on this interesting subject by its repeated discussion, no other could detain them from it long during the whole of the journey. From Elizabeth's thoughts, it was never absent. Fixed there by the keenest of all anguish, self-reproach, she could find no interval of ease or forgetfulness. They traveled as expeditiously as possible, and sleeping one night in the road, reached Longbourn by dinner time the next day. Sleeping one night on the road. Does that mean they slept at an inn on the road, or they were sleeping in the carriages? Also, the lighting of the video today is wild because it's partially cloudy and my shades are all over the place. So sorry if you're getting crazy lighting in the video today. So, they slept at an inn. Okay. I was going to say they slept in the chase. They're just going bouncing up and down. That'd be so uncomfortable. So the letter that Lizzie got, I want to just iron this out. The letter that Lizzie got, Lizzie communicates zero about the Bingley, Jane, Darcy breakup to anybody. She keeps that under lock and key. Total lock and key, because she knows it would devastate Jane. She doesn't say that to anybody in the book at this point. I'm correct about that, or am I incorrect about that? I believe I'm correct about that. But, okay, good. Yes, I'm saying yes. But she does communicate the contents of the letter about Wickham to Jane. Does she keep anything back to Jane about the contents of the letter of the letter talking about Wickham? I don't think she keeps anything back. I think she spills all the beans on that. Elizabeth then goes and is talking to, they don't talk to anybody else about that. Jane is a lock and key. We know Jane's not going to spread any gossip about that. But Elizabeth then talks to the gardeners, who are the other people. And so the gardeners just know that Wickham is kind of sleazy and was trying to get something from Mr. Darcy, but Mr. Darcy's character is better than Wickham's character. That's all they really know about that. The fact that he was given an inheritance. Okay. All right. Yes. Correct times 3. Let's go. Thank you, Carol. She brought up the financials. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. So the financials there. So she's still doing a good job of keeping the secret. You know, it is something that she told to Jane, but we'll talk about that at the end. I like how she's navigating through this now. And I think that and it's interesting too, because she was keeping this a secret even before she was in Darcy's affection. I still am of the view that she had affection for him before this. I think some of you guys early on are talking about the word limerence, which I think is a great word for this maybe. I don't fully understand what that means yet, but so maybe that's why she was keeping that under lock and key. No, remember the chapter with the housekeeper. So the housekeeper was the one talking about some of the financial stuff that they had. But she was talking. What did the housekeeper exactly mention? Someone make a limerick about limerence. What did the housekeeper mention again? Because the housekeeper was Oh, he's the best. He gives to the poor. He's also awesome. The housekeeper didn't mention the inheritance. Okay. Lizzie would keep a secret just because she would think it would be wrong to share it. She's a strong moral code. But she shared it with Jane, which I think is the source of our debate. But Darcy shared it with Elizabeth. So they're both in the wrong. The Gardners were surprised at Lizzie's change of heart toward Darcy. It's true. So everyone's kind of concerned. This has to get out in some way. Like, this is the thing that's keeping everyone from being happy, is this secret. And it's going to get out in some way or the other. That's a good sister. Take the secret to the grave. All right, let's keep reading because I am... There's so many distractions today. The fire alarm's going off right now. Or not the fire alarm. My firehouse is... Firehouses? What is that thing called? Horn. There's some kind of emergency in my town. She shared it with Jane only because she felt like she needed advice. It's not because Jane is trustworthy. Because the Gardners are like that too. Yeah, for sure. For sure. If she had shared it with her father, he might not have let Lydia go to Brighton alone. But it wasn't her information to give. I still think that there was something... I still think that Lizzie is making a good decision by not sharing it with anybody else. And Jane is making a good decision by not sharing it with anybody else. That is not their information to give. And if they wanted to potentially talk to their family about that, that needs to be another letter sent to Mr. Darcy asking permission. Can I tell my family this to protect my own family? Corgan, we are in the throes of Lydia and Wickham right now, just gallivanting all over the place. Yeah, for sure. Lizzie disagrees with me, but I think that Lizzie's wrong. I think that Lizzie's wrong, and maybe that's because, I think that I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's because I just am too hopeful for... Not hopeful. I am too firm of a believer in the justice system. Like, this is criminal. This needs to come out. What he did isn't criminal. You just got to watch out, but this is a secret that's going to hurt another person. But also, by keeping the secret, you also hurt another person. So it's like there's no good way to figure this out. Yeah, it's true. I know that. I mean, at least I just know that they're going to end up together in some way. So we'll see. All right, let's keep reading because I'm just... my head is hurting. I don't even know where we are anymore in the text. And maybe easily believe... Let's just start at this paragraph. It may be easily believed that however little of novelty could be added to their fears, hopes, and conjectures on this interesting subject by its repeated discussion, no other could detain them from it long during the whole of their journey. From Elizabeth's thoughts, it was never absent, fixed there by the keenest of all anguish. Self-reproach she could find no interval of ease or forgetfulness. Oh, sorry, my computer just fritzed for a minute. Fritz Williams, just kidding. Lou, what's up? Lou, you're jumping in at some hectic moments right now. We're in the carriage on the way back to Longbourn. They traveled as expeditiously as possible, and sleeping one night on the road, they reached Longbourn by dinner time the next day. It was confirmed to Elizabeth to consider that Jane could not have been wearied by long expectations. The little gardeners, attracted by the sight of the chase, were standing on the steps of the house. As they entered the paddock, and when the carriage drove up to the door, that's also true that Jane has to watch the little kids. Jane is probably, I mean, it's probably a good distraction, but still, it is a lot for Jane right now. The joyful surprise that lighted up their faces and displayed itself over the whole of their bodies in variety of capers and frisks was the first pleasing earnest of their welcome. Elizabeth jumped out, and after giving each of them a hasty kiss, hurried into the vestibule where Jane, who came running downstairs from her mother's apartment, immediately met her. Elizabeth, as she affectionately embraced, whilst tears filled the eyes of both, lost not a moment in asking whether anything had been heard of the fugitives. The fugitives. Not yet, replied Jane. But now that my dear uncle has come, I hope everything will be well. Is my father in town? Yes, he went on Tuesday, as I wrote you word. And have you heard from him often? We have heard only once. He wrote me a few lines on Wednesday to say that he had arrived safely, and to give me his directions, which I particularly begged him to do. He merely added that he should not write again till he had something of importance to mention. And my mother, how is she? How are you all? My mother is tolerably well, I trust. Though her spirits are greatly shaken, she is upstairs and will have great satisfaction in seeing you all. She does not yet leave her dressing room. Mary and Kitty, thank heaven, are quite well. Mrs. Bennet, come on. They're just killing me. This is brutal. Veronica, welcome. Hey, better late than never. But Sarah, what's up? Sorry, I got something in my eye that I keep trying to get out. What's up, guys? Better late than never. Welcome, welcome. Also, everyone like the stream. Her sister. But you, how are you? Cried Elizabeth. You look pale. How much you must have gone through. All right, sorry. Her sister, however, assured her of her being perfectly well, and their conversation, which had been passing while Mr. and Mrs. Gardiner were engaged with their children, was now put an end to by the approach of the whole party. Jane ran to her aunt and uncle and welcomed them and thanked them both, with alternate smiles and tears. When they were all in the drawing room, the question which Elizabeth had already asked were of course repeated by the others, and they soon found that Jane had no intelligence to give. The sanguine hope of good, however, which the benevolence of her heart suggested, had not yet deserted her. She still expected that it would all end well, and that every morning would bring some letters, either from Lydia or her father, to explain their proceedings, and perhaps announce the marriage. Mrs. Bennet, whose apartment they all repaired after a few minutes' conversation together, received them exactly as might be expected, with tears and lamentations of regret, invectives against their villainous conduct of Wickham, against the villainous conduct of Wickham, and complaints of her own suffering and ill usage, blaming everybody but the person to whose ill-judging indulgence the errors of her daughter must be principally owing. Dang. Wow. If I had been able, she said, to carry my point of going to Brighton with all my family, this would not have happened. But poor dear Lydia had nobody to take care of her. Why did the Foresters ever let her go out of their sight? I am sure there was some great neglect or other on their side. For she is not the kind of girl to do such a thing. Every sentence of this is going to be a rough one for me to get through. Oh my gosh. Come on. If she had been well looked after. Oh my gosh. This is absurd. This is absurd. Holy smokes. I always thought they were very unfit to have the charge of her, but I was overruled as I always am. Poor dear child. And now here is Mr. Bennet gone away, and I know he will fight Wickham wherever he meets him, and then he will be killed. And what is to become of us all? The Collinses will turn us out before he is cold in his grave, and if you are not kind to us, brother, I do not know what we shall do. Gosh. That is just atrocious. Because it's like it's more manipulative than I even thought initially. Like I feel like before I just thought her as an airhead. Now she consciously knows what she's doing. Fetch her some smelling salts. Like she's shifting the blame off of herself, putting herself in the right. And then she's saying this at the end, which to me is like, yeah, I know the gardeners are going to take care of you, but not reminding them to do it because you think that your husband's going to die. And if you are not kind to us, brother, I do not know what we shall do. She just burdens herself with her brother now. Yeah, not surprised at all because she's just insufferable. She's just reprehensible. That's the most annoying paragraph that I've read in a really long time. Ugh. All right, let's keep going. They all exclaimed against such terrific ideas, and Mr. Gardiner, after general assurances of his affection for her and all her family, told her that he meant to be in London the very next day and would assist Mr. Bennet in every endeavour for recovering Lydia. Do not give way to useless alarm, added he. Though it is right to be prepared for the worst, there is no occasion to look on it as certain. It is not quite a week since they left Brighton. In a few days more, we may gain some news of them. Until we know that they are not married and have no design of marrying, do not let us give the matter over as lost. As soon as I get to town, I shall go to my brother and make him come home with me to Gracechurch Street, and then we may consult together as to what is to be done. Oh, my dear brother, replied Mrs. Bennet, that is exactly what I could most wish for. And now do, when you get to town, find them out wherever they may be, and if they are not married already, make them marry. And as for wedding clothes, do not let them wait for that, but tell Lydia she shall have as much money as she chooses to buy them after they are married. What? This is absurd. Yeah, Mrs. Bennett just broke me. What the heck is going on? She is out of her mind. She, she breaks us all. This is utterly absurd. This is just Oh my gosh, this is crazy. And above all things, keep Mr. Bennet from fighting. Tell him what a dreadful state I am in. Tell him I'm frightened out of my wits, and I have such tremblings, such flutterings all over me, such spasms in my side, and pains in my head, and such beatings at heart that I can get no rest by night or by day. And tell my dear Lydia not to give any directions about her clothes till she has seen me. Oh, for she does not know which are the best warehouses. Oh, brother, how kind you are. I know you will contrive all. This is... I want to rip this page out of the book. This is rage bait at its finest. This is I am at such a loss for words right now. I really hope we don't get anything else that she says in this chapter, because I am going to lose it. I'm going to lose my mind. It just makes me think everything that she's doing is fake. Like, her mourning is fake. And in between her mourning, she's like, make sure she has nice clothes. I'll go shopping with her later if she wants to go, shop for a wedding dress. I'll have a really good wardrobe for her, and she'll have some really, really nice bonnets. Meanwhile, their whole family is about to go into ruin, and all she's thinking about are, oh, wait, I know the best warehouses. I guess beware of who you marry. This is absolutely brutal. This is just so brutal. Oh my gosh. I'm like kind of with you. Like, I mean, Mr. Bennet, I don't think he's, you shouldn't get off scot-free. This woman is the worst. She is the worst. Yes, this is why Lydia is the way that she is. All right, let me take a few deep breaths, and then we got to keep reading, because I'm like, ay. Man, this is crazy. All right. But Mr. Gardiner, though he assured her again of his earnest endeavors in the cause, could not avoid recommending moderation to her, as well as her hopes as her fears. And after talking with her in this manner till dinner was on the table, they left her to vent all her feelings on the housekeeper who attended in the absence of her daughters. Poor housekeeper. Though her brother and sister were persuaded that there was no real occasion for such seclusion from the family, they did not attempt to oppose it, for they all knew that she had not prudence enough to hold her tongue before the servants. While they waited at table, and judged it better than one only of the household, and the one whom they could most trust, should comprehend all her fears and solicitude on the subject. In the dining room they were joined by Mary and Kitty, who had been too busily engaged in their separate apartments to make their appearance before them. One came from her books and the other from her toilet. The faces of both, however, were tolerably calm, and no change was visible in either, except that the loss of her favorite sister, or anger which she had herself incurred in the business, had given something more of a fretful than usual to the accents of Kitty. As for Mary, she was mistress enough to herself to whisper to Elizabeth with a countenance of grave reflection soon after they were seated at the table. This is a most unfortunate affair. It will probably be talked much of, but we must stem the tide of malice and pour into the wounded bosoms of each other the balm of sisterly consolation. This chapter is too much, guys. This chapter is just this is a I don't know what's going on anymore. This is just absurd. And Mary, exactly what she's saying is true, but you're just like, shut up, Mary. Stop. Then, perceiving in Elizabeth no inclination of replying, yes, because she's like all of us, rolling her eyes, she added, unhappy as the event must be for Lydia, we may draw from it this useful lesson, that loss of virtue in a female is irretrievable, that one false step involves her in endless ruin, that her reputation is no less brittle than it is beautiful, and that she cannot be too much guarded in her behavior toward the undeserving of the other sex. Which is a really great point, to be completely honest. Okay, so she's a moron. Like, you're not supposed to say this at this time. She doesn't know how to read a room. That's a really great isolated thing to think about. Yeah, very poorly timed. If you just take this line out and like import it at another point. Poor little neurodiverse Mary. For sure. Just doesn't know social cues. You love her, but like this isn't the right time. Elizabeth lifted up her eyes in amazement, but was too much oppressed to make any reply. Mary, however, continued to console herself with such kind of moral extractions from the evil before them. In the afternoon, the two eldest Miss Bennets were able to be for half an hour by themselves, and Elizabeth instantly availed herself of the opportunity of making any enquiries, which Jane was equally eager to satisfy. After joining in general lamentations over the dreadful sequence of this event, which Elizabeth considered all but certain, and Miss Bennet could not assert to be wholly impossible, the former continued the subject, saying, but tell me all and everything about it, which I have not already heard. Give me farther particulars. What did Colonel Forster say? Had they no apprehension of anything before the elopement took place? They must have seen them together forever. Colonel Forster did own that he had often suspected some partiality, especially on Lydia's side, but nothing to give him any alarm. I am so especially grieved for him. His behavior was attentive and kind to the utmost. He was coming to us in order to assure us of his concern, before he had any idea of their not being gone to Scotland. What that apprehension first got abroad, or when that apprehension first got abroad, it hastened his journey. That feels like another thing of like wishful like thinking. I'm sure Colonel Forster wasn't really thinking all that much of it, and then as soon as it happens, he's like, oh, I meant to come to you last week, to kind of cover his own tracks a little bit. And Jane believed that. That's kind of what I gathered from that. And was Denny convinced that Wickham would not marry? Did he know of their intending to go off? Had Colonel Forster seen Denny himself? Yes, but when questioned by him, Denny denied knowing any of their plan. Who's Denny? Oh no, Mr. Collins is going to weigh in? No! It's going to be rough. Captain Denny. Oh, okay. Wickham's good friend. Okay, that's right. The Denny. Denny was the dude that was like, you got to come to Meryton. There's a lot of hot babes here. And then that's why Wickham came. He did not repeat his persuasion of their not marrying, and from that I am inclined to hope he might have been misunderstood before. Until Colonel Forster came himself, not one of you entertained a doubt, I suppose, of their being really married. How was it possible that such an idea should enter our brains? I felt a little uneasy, a little fearful of my sister's happiness with him in marriage, because I knew that his conduct had not always been quite right. My father and mother knew nothing of that. They only felt how imprudent a match it must be. Kitty then owned, with a very natural triumph on knowing more than the rest of us, that in Lydia's last letter she had prepared her for such a step. She had known, it seems, of their being in love with each other many weeks, but not before they went to Brighton. No, I believe not. And did Colonel Forster appear to think ill of Wickham himself? Does he really know his character? I must confess that he did not speak so well of Wickham as he formerly did. He believed him to be imprudent and extravagant. And since this sad affair has taken place, it is said that he left Meryton greatly in debt. Oh, but I hope this may be false. Oh, so is he using Lydia as a quick get out of debt free card? Okay, so his motivations are coming a little bit out and they're making themselves a little clearer. Yeah, consolation prize for sure. He just wants to get out of debt. Gotcha. Oh, Jane. Had we been less secret, had we told what we knew of him, this could not have happened. Perhaps it would have been better, replied his sister, but to expose the former faults of any person without knowing what their present feelings were seems unjustifiable. We acted with the best intentions. Yes, I like that. Could Colonel Forster repeat the particulars of Lydia's note to his wife? He brought it with him for us to see. Jane then took it from her pocketbook and gave it to Elizabeth. These were the contents. My dear Harriet, you will laugh when you know where I am gone. I cannot help laughing myself at your surprise tomorrow morning as soon as I am missed. I am going to Gretna Green. And if you cannot guess with who, I shall think you a simpleton. For there is but one man in the world I love. He is an angel. I should never be happy without him. So think it no harm to be off. You need not send them word at Longbourn of my going, if you do not like it, for it will make the surprise greater when I write to them and sign my name Lydia Wickham. What a good joke it will be. I can hardly write for laughing. Pray, make my excuses to Pratt for not keeping my engagement and dancing with him tonight. Tell him I hope he will excuse me when he knows all, and tell him I will dance with him at the next ball we meet, with great pleasure. I shall send for my clothes when I get to Longbourn, but I wish you would tell Sally to mend a great slit in my worked muslin gown before they are packed up. Goodbye. Give my love to Colonel Forster. I hope you will drink to our good journey. Your affectionate friend, Lydia Bennet. Huh. Wait, Lydia thinks that Wickham does plan on marrying her. But, wait. This is maybe where I'm a little confused. Yeah, Lydia is a Valley girl. For sure. Sorry if there's any Valley girls here. You guys are Lydia. How is he going to get the money if they're not married? Is he going to elope and then break it off as soon as he gets the money? Hmm. Lydia believed Wickham's lies. Hmm. A Valley Girl is someone from LA. From like California, like you're from the Valley because you live in LA, and you are just a little like Lydia. She's stupid. Don't try to logic stupid. Okay, this is what I don't. Yeah, that's what I don't understand. Like, there's such illogical stuff happening in this. I'm like, none of this makes sense to me because it just doesn't make sense. So, but I'm working from someone who makes no sense. So, I'm trying to understand someone who doesn't really think straight. Oh, thoughtless Lydia, cried Elizabeth when she had finished it. What a letter is this, to be written at such a moment. But at least it shows that she was serious in the object of her journey, whatever he might afterward persuade her to. It was not on her side of a scheme of infamy. My poor father, how he must have felt it. I never saw anyone so shocked. He could not speak a word for full 10 minutes. My mother was taken ill immediately, and the whole house in such confusion. Interesting. That shock is actually really interesting. Like the first time he's like maybe realizing, oh, well, I've been an idiot and haven't really like done a good job. Because he's not laughing at this. This is an inconsistency that he would laugh at. He would laugh at something that like this is amusement to him. But now it's like cutting a little too close to home. He's like, oh crap, this is going to ruin the family. Oh, Jane, cried Elizabeth. Was there a servant belonging to it who did not know the whole story before the end of the day? I do not know. I hope there was. But to be guarded at such a time is very difficult. My mother was in hysterics, and though I endeavored to give her every assistance in my power, I am afraid I did not do so much as I might have done. But the horrors of what might possibly happen almost took from me my faculties. Your attendance upon her has been too much for you. You do not look well. Oh, that I had been with you. You have had every care and anxiety upon yourself alone. Mary and Kitty have been very kind, and would have shared in every fatigue, I am sure, but I did not think it right of either of them, or for either of them. Kitty is slight and delicate, and Mary studies so much that her hours of repose should not be broken in on. My Aunt Phillips came to Longbourn on Tuesday. Part of me thinks that Jane is lying to herself sometimes. Like, does Jane actually believe that? I think so, but does she actually in her subconscious soul believe that? Like, does she really think that she shouldn't disturb Mary because she's studying? Or is she just making that as an excuse to be like, I didn't want to bother Mary. Mary's just annoying. And we both know about Mary. Like, internally, is she in her head going, yeah, Mary's an idiot. I'm not going to talk to Mary and Kitty about this. What are they going to do? Well, how the heck are they going to help me? I don't know. Yeah, Jane is taking care of the kids, for sure. Wait, what did I bring up that you guys are talking about? She's too nice for that. Honestly, a little bit. All right, let me keep reading. My Aunt Phillips came to Longbourn on Tuesday, after my father went away, and was so good as to stay till Thursday with me. She was of great use and comfort to us all. And Lady Lucas had been very kind. She walked here on Wednesday morning to console us, or condole us, to condole with us, and offered her service or any of her daughters. if they could be of use to us. She had better have stayed at home, cried Elizabeth. Perhaps she meant well, but under such misfortune as this, one cannot see too little of one's neighbors. Assistance is impossible, condolence insufferable. Let them triumph over us at distance and be satisfied. Wow, their opinions are just so different. Yikes. She then proceeded to inquire into the measures which her father had intended to pursue while in town for the recovery of his daughter. He meant, I believe, replied Jane, to go to Epsom, the place where they last changed horses, to see the postilions, and try if anything could be made out from them. His principal object must be to discover the number of hackney coaches which took them from Chatham. It had come with a fare from London, and as he thought the circumstances of a gentleman and ladies removing from one carriage into another might be remarked, he meant to make enquiries at Clapham, if he could anyhow discover at what house the coachman had before set down his fare. He determined to make the enquiries there, and hoped it might not be impossible to find out the stand and number of the coach. I do not know of any other design that he had formed, but he was in such a hurry to be gone, and his spirits so greatly discomposed, that I had difficulty in finding out even so much as this. Huh. Yeah, Lizzie's distress is definitely not unfounded. I think Lizzie's kind of right in this situation. Like, I think she's thinking rightly of the Lucases. I don't think Jane's opinion is great here. Like, again, she's thinking highly of people, which is good for her, but I don't know. All right. What a whirlwind so far. All right, we have a few more chapters that we're going to read. Gosh, this is just exhausting. I feel so bad for them. Man, this is so annoying because everything was going right. Just when everything goes right, this is where again, these authors who nowadays are writing these stories where everything is perfect and everything is great and all of a sudden it goes to crap. This is all those authors are stealing from this moment. Everything was perfect. Everything was going to happen so nice and neat, and then freaking Wickham. All right, chapter 48. Let me get another drink and then we'll start chapter 48. I need a bag of ice on my head. All right, here we go. Let's keep reading. Chapter 48. The whole party were in hopes of a letter from Mr. Bennet the next morning, but the post came in without bringing a single line from him. His family knew him to be on all common occasions a most negligent and dilatory correspondent, but at such time they had hoped for exertion. They were forced to conclude that he had no pleasing intelligence to send, but even of that they would have been glad to be certain. Mr. Gardiner had waited only for the letters before he set off. When he was gone, they were certain at least of receiving constant information of what was going on, and their uncle promised at parting to prevail on Mr. Bennet to return to Longbourn as soon as he could, to the great consolation of his sister, who considered it as the only security for her husband's not being killed in a duel. Mrs. Gardiner and the children were to remain at Hertfordshire a few days longer, as the former thought her presence might be serviceable to her nieces. She shared in their attendance on Mrs. Bennet, and was a great comfort to them in the hours of freedom. Their other aunt also visited them frequently, and always, as she said, with the design of cheering and heartening them up, though as she never came Without reporting some fresh instance of Wickham's extravagance or irregularity, she seldom went away without leaving them more dispirited than she found them. All Meryton seemed striving to blacken the man who, but 3 months before, had been almost an angel of light. He was declared to be in debt to every tradesman in the place, and his intrigues, all honored with the title of seduction, had been extended into every tradesman's family. Everybody declared that he was the wickedest young man in the world, and everybody began to find out. Oh, this is great because all this is getting out now. No, that's not vodka. That's water, I promise. All this is getting out now without them having to spread the gossip. So, truth will out. I think that's like the theme of this. Eventually, truth will out. Everybody declared that he was the wickedest young man in the world, and everybody began to find out, as they always had distrusted the appearance of his goodness. Elizabeth, though she did not discredit above half of what was said, believed enough to make her former assurance of her sister's ruin still more certain. And even Jane, who believed still less of it, became almost hopeless, more especially as the time was now come when they had gone to Scotland, which she had never before entirely despaired of. They must in all probability have gained some news of them. Mr. Gardiner left Longbourn on Sunday. On Tuesday, his wife received a letter from him. It told them that on his arrival, he had immediately found out his brother and persuaded him to come to Grace Church, that Mr. Bennet had been to Epsom and Clapham before his arrival, but without gaining any satisfactory information, and that he was now determined to inquire at all the principal hotels in the town, as Mr. Bennet thought it possible they might have gone to one of them on their first coming to London, before they procured lodgings. Mr. Gardiner himself did not expect any success from this measure, but his brother was eager in it. He meant to assist him in pursuing it. He added that Mr. Bennet seemed wholly disinclined at present to leave London, and promised to write again very soon. There was also a postscript to this effect. I have written to Colonel Forster to desire him to find out, if possible, from some of the young man's intimates in the regiment, whether Wickham has any relations or connections who would likely be able to know in what part of town he was now concealed himself. If there was anyone that one could apply to, with a probability of gaining such a clue as that, it might be of essential consequence. At present, we have nothing to guide us. Colonel Forster will, I dare say, do everything in his power to satisfy us on this head. But on second thoughts, perhaps Lizzie could tell us what relations he is now living, better than any other person. Elizabeth was not at a loss to understand from whence this deference for her authority proceeded, but it was not in her power to give any information of so satisfactory a nature as the compliment deserved. She had never heard of his having any relations except a father and a mother, both of whom who had been dead for many years. It was possible, however, that some of his companions in the shire might be able to give more information, and though she was not very sanguine in expecting it, the application was a something to look forward to. Every day at Longbourn was now a day of anxiety, but the most anxious part of each day was when the post was expected. The arrival of letters was the first grand object of every morning's impatience, though letters, whatever good or bad was to be told, would be communicated, and every succeeding day was expected to bring some news of importance. Real quick, people keep talking about this everyone's like, the mother was like, they need to just go get married. What is can someone walk me through the societal things of what's going on really right now? So it seems like they're shacking up together and they're having some kind of like premarital fling, I guess. Is that the thing that's the biggest oh my gosh, this is so terrible and this is going to ruin the family name? Why is everyone like, go marry, go? Why is his mother like, I hope they'll go get married? So it's because if Lydia doesn't get married, her sisters will be ruined. For a woman of Lydia's class, that is horrific. Okay, interesting. Same reason shotgun weddings were a thing. Okay, interesting. So, oh, so Wickham's just really a hedonist, just out here having fun. Like, he's like doesn't care about his reputation because his reputation's already lost, but he's like dragging another person down with him, which makes him even worse. So does he really even care about the money? I don't think he necessarily even cares about money right now. I think he's just having fun before like he gets called on his debt. Okay. So I still think Darcy's gonna come in and like find them and then have them get married. But the debt thing is still gonna be the issue. Like I think this might be even worse for him. But in my head, this is what he's doing right now. He's like, I have a lot of debts. I just left town. Those debts are going to follow me. He's like, I know those debts are eventually going to hit back at me. And are debtors' prisons a thing at this point? I'm sure they are. I'm sure that he'll get like dishonorably discharged or whatever it would be at the time and probably get put in prison in some way. So he's like, I'm going to get thrown in prison. So he's like, I'm going to enjoy a few weeks with the first person that I could find that would want to take me. So he's like ruining this family for his own hedonistic desires. Interesting. Because it doesn't seem like he's going to get money from this. All right, Channel, I'll keep reading. Hold on. But to not be married is worse. Okay, interesting. I'm a little I hope, okay, so I'm like hoping and not hoping, but I think this is what's going to happen. In that, is Darcy going to end up paying his debts? I kind of hope that doesn't happen, to be completely honest, because if that happens and they end up actually getting married, then he's just going to do the same thing, and then Darcy's going to have to continually bail him out. You know, maybe this is like this isn't the first occurrence with Darcy, but maybe this is like, okay, there's a point where you just cut it off. But they're going to be estranged from the family pretty quick. All right. Let's read. Let's read. All right. But before they had heard again from Mr. Gardiner, a letter arrived for their father from a very different quarter, from Mr. Collins, which, as Jane had received directions to open all that came from him in his absence, she read accordingly. And Elizabeth, who knew what curiosities his letters always were, looked over her and read likewise. It was as follows. My dear sir, I feel called upon by our relationship. Oh gosh, this is already starting off at a rough point. And my situation in life to condole with you on the grievous affliction which you are now suffering under, of which we were yesterday informed by a letter from Hertfordshire. Be assured, my dear... Who sent them a letter? I don't think... Would Elizabeth send a letter to Charlotte? The Lucases. Yeah, that's right. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Charlotte's mom. Of course, the gossip. Yeah, I should have seen it coming. Be assured, my dear sir, that Mrs. Collins and myself sincerely sympathize with you and all your respectable family in your present distress, which must be of the bitterest kind, because proceeding from a cause which no time can remove. No arguments shall be wanting on my part that can alleviate so severe a misfortune. or that may comfort you under a circumstance that must be all of the others most afflicting to a parent's mind. The death of your daughter would have been a blessing in comparison to this. Wow. You know, this is a line that shows you exactly where his priorities are. His priorities are not about human value, they're about societal gain. And it's weird because, okay, yeah, like, yes, he's right. Or he's not wrong, at least. But there's a time and a place. And if you're like a clergyman, I feel like you, out of all people, should know when to say something like this and when to not. That is an absurd thing to say. Wow. And it is the more to be lamented because there is reason to suppose, as my dear Charlotte informs me, that this licentiousness of behavior in your daughter has proceeded from a faulty degree of indulgence, though at the same time for the consolation of yourself and Mrs. Bennet. I am inclined to think that her own disposition must be naturally bad, or she could not be guilty of such enormity at so early an age. Howsoever that may be, you are grievously to be pitied, in which opinion I am not only joined by Mrs. Collins, but likewise by Lady Catherine and her daughter. Now, this is so fascinating to me, too, because and this is like, again, maybe this is why we have to have the conversation about secrets. Maybe Lady Catherine knew about this before he did. But you know this guy is almost more dishonorable, because the first thing that he probably does when he gets this information from the Lucases is he runs over to Lady Catherine and tells her all. Like, he is just a loser. Like, that is so low to do that. Oh, to whom I have related the affair. There you go. You guys should have told me to read and find out. Nothing. He is the least trustworthy character. They agree with me in apprehending that if this false step in one that this false step in one daughter will be injurious to the fortunes of all others, for who, as Lady Catherine herself condescendingly says, will connect themselves with such a family. And this consideration leads me moreover to reflect with augmented satisfaction on a certain event of last November. No, he's not going to say this. For had it been otherwise, I must have been involved in all your sorrows and disgrace. Let me advise you then, my dear sir, to console yourself as much as possible, to throw off your unworthy child from your affection forever, and to leave her to reap the fruits of her own heinous offense. I am, dear sir, N.C. N.C. These chapters are breaking me, guys. What the heck is going on? You know what I'm thinking through this letter? Okay, Charlotte probably like does. Okay, here's a question that I have, a theoretical question. I'm not ready for Wuthering Heights. Oh, yikes. Okay, theoretical question. Do you think that Charlotte has access to see his letters? Is he so prideful in himself that he is like, oh, my love, Charlotte, come read this beautifully written letter that I've written to my cousins? Is he that dumb? So has Charlotte seen this letter? And if that's the case, if Charlotte's seen this letter, how terrified must she be to see this? Where she's like, oh, if we raise kids, this man is kind of dangerous, kind of scary. Like, yeah, for sure, he would have access to her letters, 100%. Whenever she gets a letter, he is the first one to open it. No, but to me, he's not dangerous to Charlotte, but he potentially can be to their kids if they have kids. And like Charlotte's like, oh, I'm getting a taste of what would happen if one of my kids does something like this. And Charlotte has enough good sense to probably not make her kids like this. But still, it's like the nature nurture argument for some point. It makes me scared for Charlotte. Like for sure, like but like, and you could say this too. Like Charlotte would probably raise great kids, but when you are partnered up with something like this is like would Charlotte's not gonna do like a Mr. Bennett, but would she check out in some degree? I think she's too smart to check out, but Mr. Bennett was too smart. But Charlotte's a bit too smart, like in a different level of smart. Like Charlotte's like street smart. She wouldn't do that. She's more in control of herself. This is crazy though. This is one of the most absurd letters. Like this is some of the craziest stuff to say. I don't even I've guys, my mind is breaking in these chapters. I don't know what is going on. How the audacity of him to say some of this stuff. Yeah, she's clever. She will be able to kind of like outmaneuver him. But yikes. This is like how like your family is mourning something, and all of a sudden the death of your daughter would have been a blessing in comparison of this. Yikes. Yikes. Man, I don't know what to say. This is crazy to me. All right, let's keep reading because I'm about to lose it. Like the emotional heft of this right now is just too much. Like everything in this letter points to the fact of his character is just reprehensible. Yeah, audacity in the gall sense. Like, yeah, absolutely. Oh, Haley, were you the one that commented and said you're reading that for the first time too? Someone said that. Might have been you. Might have been someone else. I mean, I think this letter kind of is supposed to be funny, but it's like, it's only if, and maybe this is different too, because it might just be different readings of Collins. But I think my interpretation of Collins is less of a comedic relief and more of he's actually kind of dangerous. Oh, nice, it's you. Are you at this point in the book with us? Are you like just reading along with me, or are you a little ahead? Like, I think it's supposed to play to some extent as as comedic relief, but that's only maybe if you view him as a comedic character. Like, I think that he's more dangerous, which is why I don't really see this as I pity Charlotte. Like, I feel really bad for Charlotte in this case now. And some parts of this letter are funny, like, him saying like, "Oh, I'm glad that I'm not part of your family." Like, he's absurd, and that can be painted as comedic, but now I am just thinking it's sad because Charlotte's in this marriage with this guy who, if one of his kids did that, he would say, "Oh, I wish they were dead," rather than disgraced us. You're ill, so all you do is read. That's not a bad thing to do. Oh, this is crazy. All right, let's keep reading. Otherwise, I'm really going to lose it. Mr. Gardner did not write again till he had received an answer from Colonel Forster, and then he had nothing of a pleasant nature to send. It was not known that Wickham had a single relation with whom he had kept up any connection, and it was certain that he had no near one living. His former acquaintance had been numerous, but since he had been in the militia, it did not appear that he was on terms of particular friendship with any of them. There was no one, therefore, who could be pointed out as likely to give any news of him. And in the wretched state of his own finances, there was very powerful motive for secrecy, in addition to his fear of discovery by Lydia's relations. For it had just transpired that he left gambling debts behind him to a very considerable amount. Another side note, so no one knows where he is right now. Is Darcy going to find him in the same spot that he found that he was with Georgiana? Did he have like a little place where he would like lure people out to this? Ugh, this is even grosser. Tolkien Rants, what's up? Yeah, everyone like the stream. Come on, what are you guys doing? He did though, with their governor, right? Maybe I misread that. I thought that they kind of like went off. It was the governor, Wickham, and Georgiana. Oh, Georgiana told Darcy about the plan, and then he stopped it. Okay, gotcha. So I misread that. Thank you. I wonder if that he was taking him to his lair though. he has a place where he does this with people all the time. Man. Georgie and Wickham were in Ramsgate. Okay. All right, let's keep reading. To a very, very considerable, for it had been transpired that he had left gambling debts behind him. To a very considerable amount. Colonel Forster believed that more than £1,000 would be necessary to clear his expenses at Brighton. He owed a good deal in the towns, but his debt of honor was still more formidable. Mr. Gardner did not attempt to conceal these particulars from the Longbourn family. Jane heard them with horror. "A gamester," she cried. "This is wholly unexpected. I had not an idea of it." Mr. Gardner added in his letter that they might expect to see their father at home on the following day, which was Saturday. Rendered spiritless by the ill success of their endeavors, he had yielded to his brother-in-law's entreaty that he would return to his family and leave it to him to do. whatever occasion might suggest to be advisable for continuing the pursuit. When Mrs. Bennet was told of this, she did not express so much satisfaction as her children expected, considering what her anxiety for his life had been before. "What? Is he coming home when without poor Lydia?" she cried. "Sure he will not leave London before he has found them. Who is to fight Wickham and make him marry her if he comes away?" Gosh, she is a moron. As Mrs. Gardiner began to wish to be at home, it was settled that she and her children should go to London at the same time that Mr. Bennet came from it. The coach, therefore, took them to the first stage of the journey and brought its master back to Longbourn. Mrs. Gardiner went away in all perplexity about Elizabeth and her Derbyshire friends that had attended her from that part of the world. His name had never been voluntarily mentioned before them by her niece, and the kind of half-expectation which Mrs. Gardiner had formed of their being followed by a letter from him had ended in nothing. Elizabeth had received none since her return that could come from Pemberley. The present unhappy state of the family rendered any other excuse for lowness of her spirits unnecessary. Nothing, therefore, could be fairly conjectured from that, though Elizabeth, who was by this time tolerably well acquainted with her own feelings, was perfectly aware that had she known nothing of Darcy, she could have borne the dread of Lydia's infamy somewhat better. It would have spared her, she thought, of one sleepless night out of two. When Mr. Bennet arrived, he had all the appearance of his usual philosophic composure. He said as little as he ever had in the habit of saying, made no mention of the business that had taken him away, and it was some time before his daughters had courage to speak of it. It was not till the afternoon, when he joined them at tea, that Elizabeth ventured to introduce the subject, and then, on her briefly expressing her sorrow for what he must have endured, he replied, "Say nothing of that. Who should suffer but myself? It has been my own doing, and I ought to feel it." Oh, interesting. He is going to punish himself by sticking himself in this unhappy state. He thinks he deserves this, so he's gonna just stay there. Yeah, this is the wake-up call that he kind of needs. But I don't think it's going to make him that much better of a father, to be completely honest. But we'll see. Oh no, keep reading. Is there something else? "You must not be too severe upon yourself," replied Elizabeth. "You may well warn me against such an evil. Human nature is so prone to fall into it. No, Lizzie, let me once in my life feel how much I have been to blame. I am not afraid of being overpowered by the impression. It will pass away soon enough." Okay, come on, dude. "Do you suppose them to be in London?" "Yes, where else can they be so well concealed?" "And Lydia used to want to go to London," added Kitty. "She is happy then," said her father dryly. "And her residence there will be probably some of short duration." Then, after a short silence, he continued, "Lizzie, I bear you no ill will for being justified in your advice to me last May, which, considering the event, shows some greatness of mind." They were interrupted by Miss Bennet, who came to fetch her mother's tea. Gosh. Her mother is just absurd. "This is a parade," cried he, "which does one good. It gives an elegance to misfortune. Another day I will do the same. I will sit in my library in my nightcap and my powdering gown and give as much trouble as I can, or perhaps I may defer it till Kitty runs away." "I am not going to run away, Papa," said Kitty fretfully. "If I should ever go to Brighton, I would have been better than Lydia." "You go to Brighton? I would not trust you so near it as Eastbourne, or for £50. No, Kitty. I have at least learned to be cautious, and you will feel the effects of it. No officer is to ever enter my house again. nor even to pass through the village. Balls will be absolutely prohibited, unless you stand up with one of your sisters, and you are never to stir out of doors till you can prove that you have spent 10 minutes of every day in a rational manner. Okay, so a course correction, but maybe too great of a course correction. He's going to become like this overbearing, strict father now. I don't think he's going to really do that for a long time, but Kitty, who took all these threats in a serious light, began to cry. So I guess she's thinking that it's serious, and Mr. Bennett's really kind of like joking about this. To be completely honest, he's like, he's teasing her now. Which some of those things that he's teasing her with would be kind of good. Like before you go out for 10 minutes a day, you have to be rational. Well, he said, do not make yourself unhappy. You are a good girl. If you are a good girl for the next 10 years, I will take you to review at the end of them. Yeah, for sure. All right, chapter 49, last chapter for the day. I am just... This is a wild stuff. Is it better to end this chapter or to end before chapter 50? Should we end here or should we go one more chapter? Man. Stop here, read 49. Any other votes? We're 1-1 right now. I'm on 49, not 50. I won't read 51 yet. One more chapter. All right, let's do one more chapter. 10 more. All right. We'll do one more. This is too enjoyable. There's too much hot gossip here. Yeah, I might need to take a break because my head is just spinning right now with what's going on. Wait, either stop now or after 50. One more? If we do one more, we're going to have to do two more. How long is chapter 50? One... Guys, come on. What am I supposed to do here? Maybe we'll do two more. The tricky thing is I won't be able to read this weekend. And the next time I'll probably be able to read is like a Tuesday. Can't stop now till after 50. All right. Hold on. How many? Like another 10 pages till we get to the end of 50. So we could do it. Majority rules. We'll do two more. All right. Let me change it in the description. To 50. No, we said 50 essay, so we're good. Yeah, we're not going to read, so we got to go till 50. We'll read till we're done to 50. But I feel like Mrs. Bennet now, the emotional toll that this has taken me is just too much. Oh, my poor nerves. All right, we're going to do two more. Yeah, go get lunch, go relax, go chill. Chapter 49. 2 days after Mr. Bennet's return, as Jane and Elizabeth were walking together in the shrubbery behind the house, they saw the housekeeper coming toward them. And concluding that she had come to call them to their mother, went forward to meet her, but instead of the expected summons, when they approached her, she said to Miss Bennet, "I beg your pardon, madam, for interrupting you. But I was in hopes that you might have got some good news from town, so I took the liberty of coming to you." "What do you mean, Hill? We have heard nothing from town." "Dear madam," cried Miss Hill in astonishment. Don't you know there's an express come for master from Mr. Gardner? He has been here this half hour, and master has had a letter. Away ran the girls, too eager to get in to have time for speech. They ran through the vestibule into the breakfast room, from thence to the library. Their father was in neither, and they were on the point of seeking him upstairs with their mother when they were met by the butler, who said, "If you were looking for my master, ma'am, he is walking toward the little copse." Upon this information, they instantly passed through the hall once more, and ran across the lawn after their father, who was deliberately perusing his way toward a small wood on one side of the paddock. Jane, who was not so light nor so much in the habit of running as Elizabeth, soon lagged behind, while her sister, panting for breath, came up with him, and eagerly cried out, "Oh, Papa, what news? What news? Have you heard from my uncle?" "Yes, I have had a letter from him by express." "Well, and what does it bring, good or bad?" "Well, there is of good to be expected," said he, taking the letter from his pocket, "but perhaps you would like to read it." Elizabeth impatiently caught it from his hand. Jane now came up. "Read it aloud," said their father, "for I hardly know myself what it is about." "My dear brother, at last I am able to send you some tidings of my niece, and such as, upon the whole, I hope will give you satisfaction. Soon after you left me on Saturday, I was fortunate enough to find out in what part of London they were. The particulars I reserve till we meet. It is enough to know that they are discovered. I have seen them both." "Then it is as I always hoped," cried Jane. "They are married." Elizabeth read on. "I have seen them both. They are not married, nor can I find there was any intention of being so. But if you are willing to perform the engagement which I have ventured to make on your side, I hope it will not be long before they are. All that is required of you is to assure your daughter by settlement her equal share of £5,000, secured among your children after the decease of yourself and my sister, and moreover to enter into an engagement of allowing her, during your life, £100 per annum." This is like a ransom. Gosh. "Dad, I will get married and get out of your way if you give me £5,000 when you die and 100 every year till you die." Yeah, this is like blackmail, exactly. "These are conditions which, considering everything, I had no hesitation in complying with. As far as I thought myself privileged for you, I shall send this by express, that no time may be lost in bringing me your answer. You will easily comprehend from these particulars that Mr. Wickham's circumstances are not so hopeless as they are generally believed to be. The world has been deceived in that respect, and I am happy to say there will be some little money, even when all his debts are discharged, to settle on my niece, in addition to her own fortune. If, as I conclude will be the case, you will send me with your full powers to act in your name throughout the whole of this business, I will immediately give direction to Haggerston to prepare for a proper settlement. There will not be the smallest occasion for your coming to town again. Therefore, stay quietly at Longbourn and depend on my diligence and care. Send back your answer as soon as you can, and be careful to write explicitly. We have judged it best that my niece should be married from this house, of which I hope you will approve. She comes to us today. I shall write again as soon as anything more is determined on. Yours, N.C., etc. Edwin Gardner. EDW, is that Edwin? Yeah, this was like her expected settlement? I thought they were each supposed to have 2,000. Did it get upped? She gets a fifth of the 5,000. Okay, interesting. So his name is Edward. Huh. Springborns earn 2,000 a year. Okay, interesting. 1K now and 100 a year. Dang, she's bold. It is possible, cried Elizabeth when she had finished. Can it be possible that he will marry her? This marriage is going to be rough, guys. This marriage is going to be really, really rough. Where are they going to live? They have no money between them. Lydia just wants to buy things. She needs to learn very quickly how to not spend money. That might be tough. Yeah, and the only other way out is ruin for the rest of the sisters. So this is the only way forward. They're such... This is crazy. Wickham is not so undeserving then, as we thought him, said her sister. My dear father, I congratulate you. And have you answered the letter, said Elizabeth. No, but it must be done soon. Most earnestly did she then entreat him to lose no more time before he wrote. Oh, my dear father, she cried, come back and write immediately. Consider how important every moment is in such a case. Let me write for you, said Jane, if you dislike the trouble yourself. I dislike it very much, he replied, but it must be done. And so saying, he turned back with them and walked toward the house. And may I ask, said Elizabeth, but the terms, I suppose, must be complied with. Complied with? I am only ashamed of his asking so little. And they must marry? Yet he is such a man? Yes, they must marry. There is nothing else to be done. But there are two things that I want very much to know. One is how much money your uncle has laid down to bring it about, and the other, how am I ever to pay him? Those shouldn't necessarily be his two questions. I was hoping that his questions were going to be, how bad of a person is Wickham, and how am I going to have to deal with, how is Lydia going to have to deal with him for the rest of her life? But his questions are of his own poverty. I guess that bleeds out into the girl, so maybe he's thinking of the rest of his daughters there, but interesting. Money, my uncle, cried Jane. What do you mean, sir? I mean that no man in his senses would marry Lydia on so slight a temptation as 100 a year during my life, and 50 after I am gone. That is very true, said Elizabeth, though it had not occurred to me before. His debts to be discharged, and something still to remain. Oh, it must be my uncle's doing. Generous, good man. I am afraid he has distressed himself. A small sum could not do all this. No, said her father. Wickham's a fool. If he takes her with a farthing less than 10,000 pounds, I should be sorry to think so ill of him in the very beginning of our relationship. 10,000 pounds, heaven forbid. How is half such a sum to be repaid? Lydia is so deeply self-interested that she rather deserves what she gets, and Mr. Bennet feels terrible about potentially ruining his brothers financially by having... Yeah, I kind of feel like that too. I'm like rethinking that a little bit. Yeah, he has a lot of debt now that he owes. So this is like such a... I don't fully understand this. It does sound like a good deal, but there's something behind that he's like, it's too good of a deal. So he's like, my brother's also paying him off. Why are they acquiescing to a terrorist's requests? Why are they negotiating with a terrorist? I guess it's like, yeah, I guess he has the power in this, and he's like, I'll ruin your family if we don't get married. But if we get married, I want this amount of money. So they have to, but it is also strange why... So is he really getting more from other people? Like, is Darcy paying this guy? Is Mr. Gardner paying this guy some more? Gosh, this guy is a loser. Let's keep reading. This is just annoying. Mr. Bennet made no answer, and each of them, deep in thought, continued silent till they reached the house. Their father then went to the library to write, and the girls walked into the breakfast room. Are they really to be married? Cried Elizabeth, as soon as they were by themselves. How strange this is. And for this we are to be thankful, that they should marry, small as their chance of happiness. Yeah, you can say that again. And wretched as is his character, we are forced to rejoice, O Lydia. I am just so conflicted on this. I comfort myself with thinking, replied Jane, that he certainly would not marry Lydia if he had not a real regard for her. Come on, Jane. Come on, Jane. Though our kind uncle has done something toward clearing him, I cannot believe that £10,000 or anything like it has been advanced. He has children of his own and may have more. How could he spare half £10,000? If we are ever able to learn that what Wickham's debts have been, said Elizabeth, and how much is settled on his side at our sister, we shall exactly know what Mr. Gardner has done for them, because Wickham has not sixpence of his own. The kindness of my uncle and aunt can never be requited. Their taking her home and affording her their personal protection and countenance is such a sacrifice to her advantage, as years of gratitude cannot enough acknowledge. By this time, she is actually with them. If such goodness does not make her miserable now, she will never deserve to be happy. What a meeting for her, when she first sees my aunt. We must endeavor to forget all that has passed on either side, said Jane. I hope and trust they will yet be happy. His consenting to marry her is a proof. I will believe that he is come to a right way of thinking. Their mutual affection will steady them, and I flatter myself that they will settle so quietly and live in so rational a manner as may in time make their past imprudence forgotten. Their conduct has been such, replied Elizabeth, as neither you nor I nor anybody can ever forget. It is useless to talk of it. It now occurred to the girls that their mother was in all likelihood perfectly ignorant of what happened. They went to the library, therefore, and asked their father whether he would not wish them to make it known to her. He was writing, and without raising his head, coolly replied, just as you please. May we take my uncle's letter to read to her? Take whatever you like and get away. Gosh. Elizabeth took the letter from his writing table, and they went upstairs together. Mary and Kitty were both with Mrs. Bennet. One communication would, therefore, do for all. After a slight preparation for good news, the letter was read aloud. Mrs. Bennet could hardly contain herself. As soon as Jane had read Mr. Gardner's hope of Lydia being soon married, her joy burst forth, and every following sentence added to its exuberance. She was now in an irritation as violent from delight as she had ever been fidgety from alarm and vexation. To know that her daughter would be married was enough. She was disturbed by no fear for her felicity, nor humbled by any remembrance of their misconduct. My dear, dear Lydia, she cried, this is delightful indeed. She will be married. I shall see her again. She will be married at 16, my good, kind brother. I knew it would be. I knew he would manage everything. How I long to see her, and to see your dear Wickham, too. But the clothes, the wedding clothes. I will write to my sister Gardner about them directly. Lizzie, my dear, run down to your father and ask him how much he will give her. Stay, I will go myself. Ring the bell, Kitty, for Hill. I will put on my things in a moment. My dear, dear Lydia, how merry we shall be together when we meet. She is the worst. She doesn't care. But she's kind of like Charlotte. Does not, but Charlotte with like her daughters getting married does not care who they marry, but she just cares about them getting married. Come on. Ay, ay, ay. All right, let's keep reading. Her eldest daughter endeavored to give some relief to the violence of these transports by leading her thoughts to the obligations which Mr. Gardner's behavior laid them all under. For we must attribute this happy conclusion, she added, in a great measure to his kindness. We are persuaded that he has pledged himself to assist Mr. Wickham with money. Well, cried her mother, it is all very right. Who should do it but her own uncle? If he had not had a family of his own, I and my children must have had all the money, must have had all his money, you know. And it is the first time we have ever had anything from him except a few presents. Oh, you moron. I hate her. How about like the raising of your own children? Like this to me, it goes back like her opinion. My opinion of her just keeps getting lower and lower. Like previously, I was like, she seems like she's smart and she's deceptive. In this, she just seems ignorant, and it's almost worse than what it was before. She's like, what has she ever done for us but just give us gifts? She's blind and she's dumb. Yeah, she's not even grateful for what her brother did, which is just absurd because her brother saved the family. Oh, gosh. What an awful woman. Well, I am so happy. In a short time I shall have a daughter married. Mrs. Wickham. How well it sounds. She was only 16 last June. My dear Jane, I am in such a flutter that I am sure I can't write, so I will dictate and you will write for me. We will settle with your father about the money afterwards. But the thing should be ordered immediately. Yeah, Mrs. Wickham doesn't even sound good. She... This is... I've never been at such a loss of words for chapters that I've read. This is just... People are so stupid. She is the worst. She was then proceeded to all the particulars of calico, muslin, and cambric, and would shortly have dictated some very plentiful orders had not Jane, though with some difficulty, persuaded her to wait till her father was at leisure to be consulted. One day's delay, she observed, would be of small importance, and her mother was too happy to be quite so obstinate as usual. Other schemes, too, came into her head. I will go to Meryton, she said, as soon as I am dressed, and tell the good news to my sister Phillips. And as I come back, I can call on Lady Lucas and Mrs. Long. Kitty, run down and order the carriage. An airing would do me a great deal of good, I am sure. Girls, can I do anything for you in Meryton? Oh, here comes Hill. My dear Hill, have you heard the good news? Miss Lydia is going to be married, and you shall have a bowl of punch to make merry at her wedding. I just can't deal with this. Poor Lydia's... Mrs. Hill began to instantly express her joy. Elizabeth received her congratulations amongst the rest, and then, sick of this folly, took refuge in her own room, that she might think with freedom. Poor Lydia's situation must at best be bad enough, but that it was no worse she had need to be thankful. She felt it so, though in looking forward neither rational happiness nor worldly prosperity could be justly expected for her sister. In looking back for what they feared only 2 hours ago, she felt all the advantages of what they had gained. She's just thinking so clearly now. Like Elizabeth has like she's like comes out of the fog and like moves into a place where she's actually thinking very, very well. And Jane, I still love Jane. She's maybe my favorite. But Jane is descending a little bit into like almost too much fog. She's like not thinking clearly. Oh, you're fantasy casting a Muppets Pride and Prejudice? It's the goal. What are you talking about with me being disappointed when I say Elizabeth is thinking clearly? I'm not disappointed at all. I'm saying she's finally thinking clearly because she was prejudiced before. We need a Muppets Lord of the Rings. That is really what we need. Oh, man. Interesting, Arya. Read Pride and Prejudice a few times. Elizabeth went from your favorite to annoying in the first half of the book. She's almost like her mother at first. Miss Vicky can be Denethor. Yeah, I think that's a good reading of Elizabeth. All right, one more chapter, chapter 50, and then I need to go take something to. I don't know. I need to go take a large. I need a little cup of tea or a large brandy. Chapter 50. Mr. Bennet had often wished before this period of his life that instead of spending his whole income, he had laid by an annual sum for the better provision of his children and of his wife if she survived him. He now wished it more than ever. Had he done his duty in that respect, Lydia need not have been indebted to her uncle for whatever of honor or credit could now be purchased for her. The satisfaction of prevailing on one of the most worthless young men in Great Britain to be her husband might then have rested in its proper place. He was seriously concerned that a cause of so little advantage to anyone should be forwarded at the sole expense of his brother-in-law, and he was determined, if possible, to find out the extent of the assistance and to discharge the obligation as soon as he could. So here's my thing, and this is I'm coming from trying to understand and read Darcy's perspective on this. I would say Mr. Gardner is not the one that's paying them. I think that Darcy was probably the one that found them, because he says, like, I'm not going to relate the particulars to you right now. I'll tell you when we meet. I think that Darcy is probably the one that found them. And then I think he's essentially offering him, like, this is what I would do. Offer him one sum. You have a one-time sum that I will pay you 10,000, something crazy, like 10,000 or like 5,000 to get off my back and to never mention this again. So he's doing this to bring back honor to the family, and he doesn't have to deal with Wickham anymore. This is like, wash your hands of Wickham. Don't be like, I will pay you yearly for this. That's not what he should do. But I still think it's Darcy that's doing this. So I love that you guys are debating the casting for the Pride and Prejudice for the Muppets. All right, let's keep reading. When first Mr. Bennet had married, economy was held to be perfectly useless. For of course they were to have a son. This son was to join in cutting off the entail as soon as he should be of age, and the widow and the younger children would by that means be provided for. 5 daughters successively entered the world, but yet the son was to come. Mrs. Bennet, after many years after Lydia's birth, had been certain that he would. This event had at least been despaired of. Wait, and Mrs. Bennet for many years after Lydia's birth had been certain that he would. This event had been at least despaired of, but it was then too late to be saving. Did they have a lot of miscarriages? After Lydia, they're still expecting to have another kid? Yeah, enjoy dinner. Off to eat dinner. Have a good dinner. Kind of read that as a little bit of like maybe they were still trying and they had a bunch of miscarriages or something. This event had been at last despaired of, but it was then too late to be saving. Mrs. Bennet had no turn for economy, and her husband's love of independence had alone prevented their exceeding their income. £5,000 was settled by marriage by marriage articles on Mrs. Bennet and their children, but in what proportions it should be divided amongst the latter depended on the will of the parents. This was one point with regard to Lydia at least, which was now to be settled, and Mr. Bennet could have no hesitation in acceding to the proposal before him. In terms of grateful acknowledgment for the kindness of his brother, though expressed most concisely, he then delivered on his paper his perfect approbation of all that was done, and his willingness to fulfill the engagement that had been made for him. He had never before supposed that, could Wickham be prevailed on to marry his daughter, it would have done with so little inconvenience to himself as by the present arrangement. He would scarcely be £10 a year by the loser, or £10 a year the loser, by the 100 that was to be paid them. For with what her board and pocket allowance and the continual presents in money which passed to her through her mother's hands, Lydia's expenses had been very little within that sum. That it would be done with such a trifling exertion on the side too was another very welcome surprise. For his chief wish at present was to have as little trouble in the business as possible. When the first transports of rage which had produced his activity in seeking her were over, he naturally returned to all his former indolence. His letter was soon dispatched, for though dilatory in undertaking business, he was quick in its execution. He begged to know farther particulars of what he was indebted to his brother, but he was too angry with Lydia to send any message to her. The good news quickly spread through the house, and with proportionate speed through the neighborhood, it was borne in the latter with decent philosophy. To be sure, it would have been more for the advantage of conversation had Miss Lydia Bennet come upon the town, or as the happiest alternative been secluded from the world in some distant farmhouse. But there was much to be talked of in marrying her, and the good-natured wish for her well-doing, which had proceeded before from all the spiteful old ladies in Meryton, lost but little in their spirit of this chance of circumstances, because with such a husband her misery was considered certain. Dang. It was a fortnight since Mrs. Bennet had been downstairs, but on this happy day she again took her seat at the head of the table, and in spirits oppressively high. No sentiment of shame gave a damp to her triumph. The marriage of a daughter, which had been the first object of her wishes since Jane was 16, was now on the point of accomplishment, and her thoughts and her words ran wholly on those attendants of elegant nuptials, fine muslin, new carriages, and servants. She was busily searching through the neighborhood for proper situation for her daughter, and without knowing or considering what their income might be, rejected many as deficient in size and importance. Hay Park might do, she said, if the Goldings would quit it, or the great house at Stoke if the drawing-rooms were larger, but Ashworth is too far off. I could not bear to have her 10 miles from me. And as for Purvis Lodge, the attics are dreadful. Yeah, where are they going to live? Muslin. Okay, thank you. I don't know my tapestries. What is, or cloths, whatever the heck they are. Nuptials. Yeah, what did I say? Nuptials? Yeah, she's house shopping for them, which is absurd. Fabrics. Okay. I don't know my fabrics. Muslin. Man, my pronunciations are not great, so you guys just gotta bear with that. Very thin cotton. Kind of sounds comfy. I do love good cotton. All right, keep reading. Her husband allowed her to talk without interruption, while the servants remained. But when they had withdrawn, he said to her Mrs. Bennet, before you take any, or all of these houses, for your son and your daughter, let us come to a right understanding. Into one house in this neighborhood they shall never have admittance. I will not encourage their impudence of either by receiving them at Longbourn. Whew. Ouch. Yikes. A long dispute followed this declaration, but Mr. Bennet was firm. It soon led to another, and Mrs. Bennet found with amazement and horror that her husband would not advance a guinea to buy clothes for his daughter. He protested that she should receive from him no mark of affection whatever on the occasion. Excuse me. Mrs. Bennet could hardly comprehend it, that his anger could be carried to such a point of inconceivable resentment as to refuse his daughter a privilege without which her marriage would be scarcely seem valid. It exceeded all that which she could believe possible. She was more alive to the disgrace which the want of new clothes must reflect on her daughter's nuptials than to any sense of shame at her eloping and living with Wickham, a fortnight before they took place. Elizabeth was now most heartily sorry that she had, from the distress of the moment, been led to make Mr. Darcy acquainted with their fears for her sister. For since her marriage would so shortly give the proper termination to the elopement, they might hope to conceal its unfavorable beginning from all those who were not immediately on the spot. She had no fear of its spreading farther through his means. There were few people on whose secrecy she would have more confidently depended, but at the same time there was no one else whose knowledge of a sister's frailty would have mortified her so much. Not, however, from any fear of disadvantage from it individually to herself, for at any rate there seemed a gulf impassable between them. Had Lydia's marriage been concluded on the most honorable terms, it was not to be supposed that Mr. Darcy would connect himself with a family where to every other objection would now be added an alliance and relationship of the nearest kind with the man whom he so justly scorned. Dang. Yeah, Mrs. Bennet and Lydia are rough. The clothes, her nerves are going to be crazy from the clothes. All right, let's keep reading. From such a connection, she could not wonder that he should shrink. The wish of procuring her regard, which she had assured herself of this feeling in Derbyshire, could not in rational expectation survive such a blow as this. She was humbled, she was grieved, she repented, though she hardly knew of what. She became jealous of his esteem when she could no longer hope to be benefited by it. She wanted to hear of him when there seemed the least chance of gaining intelligence. She was convinced that she could not have been happy with him when it was no longer likely that they should meet. What a triumph for him, as she thought. Could he know that he had proposals which she had proudly spurned only 4 months ago, would now have been gladly and gratefully received. He was as generous as doubted not, and the most generous of his sex. But while he was not mortal, there must be a triumph. She began now to comprehend that he was exactly the man who, in disposition and talents, would most suit her. His understanding and temper, though unlike her own, would have answered all her wishes. It was a union which must have been to the advantage of both. By her ease and liveliness, his mind might have been softened, his manners improved, and from his judgments informed and knowledge of the world, she must have received benefit of greater importance. But no such happy marriage could now teach the admiring multitude what connubial felicity really was. A union of a different tendency, and precluding the possibility of another, was soon to be formed in their family. How Wickham and Lydia were to be supported in tolerable independence she could not imagine, but how little permanent happiness could belong to a couple who were only brought together because of their passions were stronger than their virtues she could easily conjecture. What a headache. This is like... like such a hopeless marriage. And the only people who are happy are Mrs. Bennet and probably Lydia, because she's young and she just doesn't know what is going on in the world. Lydia almost like doesn't know that she's been duped. Darcy might feel some guilt for not exposing Wickham's character and might arrange a wedding as penance. I don't know. I don't think I don't think so. I'm glad, Carol. That makes me happy. Does Mrs. Bennet know how bad her marriage is? No. Mrs. Bennet is a moron. I don't think so. Lydia as a wife is a punishment for Wickham, and Wickham shouldn't be a punishment for anybody. Like I don't think Lydia is going to have like a oh my gosh I made such a poor decision moment. I think she's going to be in ignorant bliss for her whole life. She hasn't grown up, so she's going to be a child for the rest of her life. And she's probably going to be treated as a child for the rest of her life. But Wickham is terrible. Like, is there... Someone tell me that there's a sequel to Pride and Prejudice where Wickham just gets into more and more disrepute, can't hold a job, gets into more gambling debt, and then Lydia has like a what have I done moment. Only fan sequels. Yeah, it's sad to say, but I kind of agree with you that Lydia's probably going to be cheated on. And I'm kind of with you too, Kendrick. I kind of like hope that she does stay in ignorance because that's the only way that she can actually be happy. I don't wish her dishappiness. Unhappiness. I don't wish her to not be happy. It's interesting that you think Wickham would be abusive. I could see where he potentially would get there, but there's a few things that make me think that he wouldn't. Like, I never know what a person like that is capable of. He's not a drunk. That's one. I don't think we've ever seen him get drunk in this. And he hasn't shown any real... He's emotionally abusive. He's probably like spiritually abusive. Mr. Collins is spiritually abusive. But I don't know physically. Maybe physically, maybe not. Like he would just be a deadbeat. I don't think he would be physically abusive so much as he would just cheat on Lydia and just would not find himself responsible for that. But it's a really interesting question, actually. Maybe I'll make a video about that. What is Wickham capable of? Yeah, if he feels like he's kind of backed into a corner, I kind of could see that. But I think if he's backed into a corner, he would just back out himself. He seems like more like a fish than a fighter, you know? Hmm. I love that it's that people have written follow-ups to this. It's kind of cool. All right, let's finish this chapter. Mr. Gardner soon wrote again to his brother. To Mr. Bennet's acknowledgment, he briefly replied with assurances of his eagerness to promote the welfare of any of his family, and concluded with entreaties that the subject should never be mentioned to him again. The Gardners are just the greatest human beings. Oh. The principal purport of his letter was to inform them that Mr. Wickham had resolved on quitting the militia. Can you quit the militia? It was greatly my wish that he should do so, he added, and soon as his marriage was fixed on, and I think you will agree with me in considering the removal from the corps as highly advisable, both on his account and my niece's. It is Mr. Wickham's intention to go into the regulars, and among his former friends there are still some who are able and willing to assist him in the army. So he's just going to a different branch of the army? He's going from the militia to the regulars? So he's just signing in the actual army. You can buy your way into the militia and also buy your way out. Interesting. So now he's in more debt. Lydia has always been jealous of Elizabeth. Interesting, yeah. Regulars is the army. Okay, thank you, Janwell. He has the promise of an insignicy in General Blank's regiment, now quartered in the north. It is an advantage to have it so far from this part of the kingdom. He promises fairly, and I hope among different people, where they may each have a character to preserve, they will both be more prudent. I've written to Colonel Forster to inform him of our present arrangements and to request that he will satisfy the various creditors of Mr. Wickham in and near Brighton with assurances of speedy payment, for which I have pledged myself. And will you give yourself the trouble of carrying similar assurances to his creditors in Meryton, of whom I shall subjoin a list, according to his information? He has given in all his debts. I hope at least he has not deceived us. Haggerston has our directions, and he will be complete, and all will be completed in a week. They will then join his regiment, unless they are first invited to Longbourn. And I understand from Mrs. Gardner that my niece is very desirous of seeing you all before she leaves the south. She is well, and begs to be dutifully remembered by you and her mother. Yours, E. Gardner. Oh, that's kind of sad. Like Lydia, she begs to be dutifully remembered to you. I don't like that it says and her mother, because her mother's always going to think of her no matter what she does. That's sad that she's thinking of her dad and is like, my dad doesn't love me anymore. Yeah, the Gardners told her to do it. That's so valid, because that seemed out of character for her to some extent. But now I'm like, oh, yeah. I was trying to Janeify her to an extent, be like, oh man, she thinks good, but no, she doesn't. The Gardners were like, just say that you love your mom and dad. Mr. Bennet and his daughter saw all the advantages of Wickham's removal from the Shire as clearly as Mr. Gardner could do. But Mrs. Bennet was not so well pleased with it, Lydia being settled in the north, just when she had expected most pleasure and pride in her company, for she had by no means given up her plan of their residing in Hertfordshire with a severe disappointment. And besides, it was such a pity that Lydia should be taken from a regiment where she was acquainted with everybody and had so many favorites. She is so fond of Mrs. Forrester, she said. It will be quite shocking to send her away. Now, like another question, um, maybe this is like a dumb distinction, but I don't think anybody's going to argue that they're going to be happy in a marriage together. Um, Divorce is impossible. Wickham is going to be out here having physical affairs. Is Lydia going to have physical affairs? Lydia will for sure have emotional affairs because she's a flirt and she's like, oh, I'll dance with you at another ball. Don't worry. And she's going to be flirting with everyone. But would Lydia actually go to the point where she would have a physical affair? I don't read her as that character that would. Wickham probably helped Saruman. Yeah, Wickham. Yeah, for sure. Honestly, Wickham is definitely one of the people who were in the Shire scout. They were making the Shire bad. Tolkien Rants, this is headcanon now. We just read the Scouring of the Shire chapter, and now that chapter is in my head that Wickham is in there somewhere. Nemo. Yeah, we're almost done. We have like a paragraph. Yeah, she does suck, but yeah, we can't judge her because she's 16 years old. I think all of us were probably pretty intolerable at that age. The Wickhams are for sure going to be a disaster. She could if she can get away with it. Interesting. Yeah, those two as parents. Oh, gosh, I didn't even think of that. Yikes. Wickham will be the attractive cousin of Wormtongue. No, I think it said Lydia turned 16 in June, right? Or does it say she turns? I thought it said she turned. So I think she's going from 16 to 17. Maybe I'm wrong about that. And what month are they in right now? Like March or something? She is a new 16. It's still summer. 15 to 16. Oh, dang. So she's a youngly 16. Oh, dang. So she's like brand spanking new 16. Okay. All right. Let's finish this chapter. Excuse me. She's so fond of Mrs. Forrester, she said. It will be quite shocking to send her away. And there are several of the young men, too, that she likes very much. The officers may not be so pleasant in General Blank's regiment. His daughter's request for it might be considered of being admitted into her family again before she set off for the north received at first an absolute negative. But Jane and Elizabeth, who agreed in wishing, for the sake of their sister's feelings and consequence, that she should be noticed on her marriage by her parents, urged him so earnestly, yet so rationally and so mildly, to receive her and her husband at Longbourn as soon as they were married, that he was prevailed on to think as they thought and acted as they wished. And their mother had the satisfaction of knowing that she should be able to show her married daughter in the neighborhood before she was banished to the north. When Mr. Bennet wrote again to his brother, therefore, he sent his permission for them to come. And it was settled that as soon as the ceremony was over, they should proceed to Longbourn. Elizabeth was surprised, however, that Wickham should consent to such a scheme. And had she consulted only by her own inclination, any meeting with him would have been the last object of her wishes. So they're coming. We're going to get more drama. I wonder what is going to happen in that meeting. Oh, gosh. What a headache. You guys crushed me on that. I was so excited. You guys all saw me how excited I was to see the dinner party that Lizzie was going to have, and she was going to meet Georgiana, and she was going to probably shun Carolyn and just flirt with Darcy all night. I was so excited for that. And then now we have this freaking Wickham and Lydia, the Wickhams, Mr. and Mrs. Wickham. Ugh, I know. I need a cold shower right now. Oh my gosh, what the heck is wrong with everyone? Oh my gosh. Yeah, we got through this together, guys. I wish, you know what I really would love? If she wrote an alternate, not an alternate ending, but like give me that chapter, because I was so looking forward to that chapter. And then we just got 5 chapters of agony. Oh. Yeah, come on, Jane. Man, man. There's an epilogue. Ooh, all right, excellent. Wow. What a an emotional turn. Pride and Prejudice really is like an off on the edge of your seat thriller. I really feel like that. I feel like there's so many twists and turns. Yeah, why is 1/3 of the book left? We still have a half. I guess we still have a. Yeah, we still have no a fourth of the book left. Maybe a little less. A little less than a fourth. We have. What's less than a fourth? Man. I don't even know what to do. This is brutal. Yeah, maybe a sixth left, a fifth. You get it. Definitely have a fifth left. We have 11/16 left. Or no, 5/16 left. Whatever it is. I don't know. My mind is going crazy. Oh my gosh. What a few chapters. Yeah, this is psychology at its best. Psychology classes should just read classics or just read Pride and Prejudice, and you should just talk about it. Oh my gosh. This is brutal. Oh, 10 chapters left. Chapter 55 is the best one. Okay, interesting. We'll probably do chapters 51 maybe to 55, or maybe to 54, and we'll leave 55 later. It's all downhill from here. In a good way or in a bad way? I know, my poor nerves, guys. Everyone. Oh, here's the Discord link. Yeah, let me copy paste it. Whew. Invite to server. Hold on 1 second. Invite to server. I messed something up. Whoever has the Discord link, can you guys paste the Discord in there? Because I would have to, hold on, let me just restart it. Why is it not letting me share the Discord link? Would that I could. Yeah, I'll probably do all the adaptations, and then maybe, I don't know what the reactions are going to be. Maybe we'll just like watch it on Discord or something like that. I don't know how. I don't like making long videos like that because they're just, well, maybe I'll figure something out. They're just a pain to edit. I have to read till 55. Okay. Oh, wait, Nemo, hold on. Nemo, let me get you the honor. Boom. You can only paste links if you're mods. I didn't even know that. Do I have any mods on this channel? I have a few, right? All right, I made 2 people mods. Fitz, thanks for the 279 Canadian. Just a mild thanks for going through it. Thank you for the dono, and thanks for hanging out with me as I go through it. Power, absolute power. Why can't I share this link? Invite to server. There's always a little thing that pops up. There you go. Nemo has a link. Let me copy paste that myself and repaste it so you can see. Come on, why can't I paste this? Am I not allowed to paste it? There we go. There we go, everyone. You got it. I'm just going to make everyone mods. Oh, man. Wow. I need to go. I needed something to drink after that chapter. That was brutal. Or those chapters. Brutal. Brutal, brutal. Yeah, Tolkien and Rants, I made you a mod. Guys, I gotta go eat something and go take a drink of something. Go take some drugs and blow your nose. Enjoy. Guys, it was a pleasure. These chapters were a pleasure. Next read will probably be either Tuesday. It might be Tuesday night, to be honest. It might. Wait, I might have to change it up slightly. It's either gonna be like Tuesday afternoon, maybe like Tuesday afternoonish, nightish. I can't do this weekend and up till Monday, and then we're supposed to get a big snowstorm from Sunday to Monday. So I get to see that. We're supposed to get like a foot of snow apparently. So we'll see. But I got a lot of shoveling to do. But everyone have a good weekend, and I'll have some more videos coming out this weekend. Obviously, we'll catch up a little bit, and then we'll plug ahead and finish the book. I don't know what the heck is going on. All right, guys, have a good one. I'll see you guys later.
I'm 27 years old. I've no money and no prospects. I'm already a burden to my parents. And I'm frightened.